This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, hello and a very special warm welcome to the White Oaks and Baker Elementary Schools. We are coming to you live from the Kruger National Park in South Africa, and my name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera today I've got Craig. Hello Craig, and hello to all of you. Now please send us all your questions through your teachers, because we would like to know what you would like to know about the African wilderness. Now, we're just sitting here watching a little young male leopard. He's looking out over the impala there that are on the other side of this little drainage, and I think that he's just maybe thinking he's it looks like they might have moved off. Maybe they got a bit of a smell that he's here, because maybe they're moving through the bushes there. I don't think they could see him, but maybe they could smell him, because he's sitting here next to the water. Being a very clever little leopard that he is, he knows that these animals have to come for a drink at some stage, so he can just wait here and let his food come to him. It's almost like a bit of a hot dog stand that comes around on the beach, and they come to you asking, do you want a hot dog? Well, this leopard's just waiting for these impala hot dogs to come walking into his space, and then he can have a little snack. But for the time being, he's just resting up in the shade, and as I say, waiting for his food to come to him. Now, it's a nice warm winter's day, and there's not much wind around. As you can see, the grass is not moving too much. And look at how this leopard, whose name is Hosanna, he's just listening to us talk to you as well. Oh, he's getting up. Maybe he's going to stretch a little bit, or maybe he's just going to go back to sleep. He has been sleeping quite nicely while we've been sitting here with him. Now, I'm not the only one out here. I have a couple of friends that are joining me, one on vehicle and another one on foot. And my friend on foot, his name is Steve.
Yes, I am on foot, but at the moment I am sitting down because I'd like to show you a track in the sand. Good afternoon, boys and girls. My name is Steve, and on camera I've got Sebastian Rombi, and we're out on foot in the African wilderness. And what we have found for you on the floor, let's go back down, Seb, is the track of a leopard. Now, this is very, very cool to see. Here's the one toe, the two toes, 3 and 4 in the sand, and here's the back of the pad. Can you see these 3 little lobes at the back here? That is very characteristic for a leopard, and the reason I put my knife over here is to give you a sort of size. It's about 10 centimeters, so that is definitely a male leopard, and this is his back foot, and that is his front foot. Why I say that is the back foot is a little bit narrower than his front foot. His front foot is very big. Can you see the toes again? 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see here's the back pad again, all beautiful in the sand. But look how much wider his toes are over here. It's because the leopard has got a lot of weight on his shoulders. His head and his shoulders are very, very big. So his front foot has to be bigger. And if you look at the picture here, here is a beautiful leopard which you are seeing at the moment with Ralph. And the tracks, these are the father of that leopard you're looking at. And here are the tracks of a male. And you can see what I was talking about. The back foot is quite narrow, and the front foot is very, very wide. 10 centimeters. Female leopards are much, much smaller. But awesome seeing leopard tracks. We're going to spend some time going down into the drainage to see if we can find another leopard we saw this morning. But in the meantime, James has got one of those very, very tall fellows for you.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this end of our sunset special school safari. That is a wonderful big bull giraffe. Look at him. Isn't he magnificent? And the most magnificent and interesting thing about him standing there is how long his tongue is. It's almost 2 feet long. In fact, it's more than 2 feet long. That's because he is very long himself, of course. He's a huge creature. If you were to take, I don't know, let's say all of you are around about 4 feet tall each, or 3.5 feet. Let's say we put 2 of you together, that would be 7 feet, plus another one would be 10.5 feet, plus another one would be about 14 feet. And I would think then you would almost, the top person would be able to reach up and tickle his chin. That's how tall they are. So 4 or 5 of you standing on top of each other would give you his height. My name is James, and you can ask me any questions you like as we go along through this drive for the next little while. We're going to look also for a leopard going down into this area this morning. And that giraffe, if you look very carefully, doesn't look very comfortable. You can see he's looking towards the side. And he's looking like, of course, these giraffes don't like predators, even though a leopard is much too small to take a giraffe like this. He may well. Hello, Mrs. Beckham. Sunset is a good time to do a safari because it is cooler. It's getting a bit cooler, and what we find is most of the animals out here are active at dawn and at dusk. And so although it's still bright outside at the moment, you'll probably find that the first part of the drive will be relatively quiet, and then as it starts to cool down and the light starts to fade, so animals start to get more active. It also covers that time of the day between which nocturnal and diurnal animals swap over, if you like. Many of the diurnal or day active animals will fall asleep or go to sleep or find a place to rest just after sunset, whereas many of the nocturnal animals will start to get up and move around and do what they have to do during the evening. So that's why we do it at sunset and at sunrise. In the middle of the day, yes, animals do move around. They come down to drink from time to time. Leopards especially do quite a lot of moving in the middle of the day if they feel like it. But generally it's quite quiet. And also in this area, it's very, very, very hot in the middle of summer. You can imagine, I mean, we're sitting here in the middle of winter, and it is only 24 degrees, or it's 24 degrees Celsius, 75 Fahrenheit. That's very warm for the middle of winter, as I'm sure Hosanna feels it is.
Warm today. Look how he's lying up in the shade, and we've just come around the other side of him here so that we can look a little bit more at his face, because well, this is a much better view, don't you think? And you can see he's rather sleepy, but he does look very comfortable. And yesterday he had himself some impala dinner, so I think he's got quite a full belly, and he is a very happy kitty cat. But he's a little bit larger than your cat that you might have at home. Now, Isaiah, this is a leopard, and thank you for your question. The difference between this cat, which is a leopard, and a cheetah is you see how big he is by his head. He's got a very round head, and he's also got very big shoulders. And so this cat is very good at catching animals in the bushes and just surprising them and jumping on them. Whereas a cheetah, he's a little bit taller than a leopard. He's got longer legs, and he's also much more skinny, and so he's much faster than a leopard, but he's not quite as strong as a leopard is. So he will catch his animals by chasing it down over a much bigger distance than a leopard might. But if you look at the face of this leopard, you can see he's just got all sorts of spots and things around. And a cheetah, he'll have a black line going from the eye down the side of his face. It looks like he's crying. And so the cheetah has that, we call it a tear mark. Like if you were crying and coming down the side of your, just from your eye downwards towards your mouth, that's the kind of little marking that you could see on a cheetah. So a bit of a smaller head, and that tear mark would be very easy to see the difference between a cheetah and a leopard. And I might also just pull my book out so I can show you exactly the difference. If we have a look. Oh, yes, there we go. I've got a nice picture there. So, let's have a look here. Isaiah, I'll just show you the two. That one on the top, you see that? That's a leopard. And that one is exactly what we're looking at here, sleeping next to the water. And you can see he's quite short, but he's very powerful around the shoulders over there. And then if we go down to the bottom one, and we look quite closely there, you can see the little tear mark of the cheetah on its face, and also much more tall, but he's not quite as strong as the leopard is. And also the cheetah then does have a little bit of a longer tail as well, and quite a big ball at the end, because that helps him when he's running at very high speeds to be able to go around corners. He puts his tail the other way that he's turning, so it does help him negotiate when he's running at very high speed. So Isaiah, I hope that shows you the difference between a cheetah and a leopard. And let's go back to looking at this leopard. But there in the background you can see an antelope that wants to come for a drink, but he's very nervous because this leopard is here and he knows how dangerous this leopard could be, so he's taking it very carefully. What animal is that? That's called an nyala. Nyala. Can you all say that? Nyala. It's not an impala, it's a nyala. Yes, and that's a very pretty nyala at that. He's quite big for an antelope, much bigger than an impala, and you see he's a lot darker brown than an impala is as well. But he's also got those white face markings like an American football player, don't you think? He's got his war paint on around his mouth and just below his eyes, on his nose, and, well, he needs all that football player-like power to be able to get away from this leopard, because the leopard would also quite easily have him for lunch. But that one is quite big for a leopard. But he is quite nervous. You see that? He's quite thirsty, but doesn't want to come while he's there. Now, Madeline, leopards will hide, but mostly from lions, because the lions will fight with the leopards and they'll chase them away, and if they can, they'll even kill them. So leopards, they are very good tree climbers, and when they are chased by lions, that's normally what they'll do. They'll just climb up a tree as high as they can, and the lions aren't as good as climbing trees as leopards, so it's a very good way to get away from the lions. Go up a tree. And so that's what the leopards mostly do. Oh, we've got some impala coming down for a drink here, and I wonder if they know that this leopard is here. He is just watching them, and now he's sneaking away. I wonder what he's going to do. Look at this. Uh-oh. I wonder if these impala know this leopard's here. I don't think they do. Now he's going into the grass, hiding himself. Look how well camouflaged he is. He's almost invisible. Wow! How amazing is that? He just disappeared. And if we didn't know he was there, or couldn't see the little end of his tail, well, we would also not see him at all. So you see why it's very easy for him to sneak up on these impala, because when he goes in the grass, he is totally invisible. Look at that. Where is he? He's in there. Oh, there he is. When we go really close in, you see how his spots and the colour of his coat makes him so camouflaged in the grass. But if one of these impala had to see him, they'll all tell each other. So that's why he's gone into the grass, because he doesn't want them to know that he's around. Even if he's not hungry now, he might get hungry later, so he wants to just stay invisible and not let the other animals know that he's here. And they all want to come for a drink. All right, so this is all very exciting. Shame, I hope this impala just stays safe. Well, we're going to stay here and see what happens, but let's head you off to the bushwalk team.
Thank you very much. I hope you come lucky there with the Sana hunting. We've come down into the drainage depression. You can can see a giraffe in the distance. We're going to try and get around and get a nice little view of that. And we're looking for tracks of a female leopard with her cub that were in this sort of area this morning. This is the perfect sort of environment. You can see, if you just stay there, Seb, you see how the bushes like this, leopards kind of really disappear in these sort of thickets. So that is why they've got all those spots and all those colours to help them to camouflage. So we've got to be very careful where we're looking to try and see where she is. She's about 12, 13 years of age, and she's got a very cute little cub by the name of Kalama, which means playful one, who's about 9 months. So she's young, but she's moving. Today she was actually walking with Mum and hunting with Mum. So it's the first time we've seen her walking around. Normally Mum leaves her somewhere like this and then goes off to find food and then calls her. But now today she was saying, come on, let me show you how it's done, which is very cool. You know, it's always fun that first time Mum and Dad says, come with me and we're going to do it together today. You get very excited. I don't know if they're going to be successful, because when the cub's very excited, she jumps up and down, and then all the animals like the nyala that Ralph is looking at just look at her, and then it's not very easy to catch an animal that knows you're coming. Not that easy at all. But I think James is on a similar sort of mission to us. He's on the other side there. I told him we're about to go, so we're going to come in from this side, because we had her walking back towards us. And she was walking around and sticking her nose into bushes like this, having a little look. This is very thick here. This is where we get lots of small animals like to hide inside the bush there. And the leopard likes to go inside and try and chase them out, because it's very easy to hide in there, and the leopard knows that. And she's teaching her cub exactly where to look. And it was quite special for me this morning to follow them as they're walking, because it's just Mum and then little mini me as they're walking. Very cute. Hayley, you want to know how they run so fast? Well, they're very powerful in their legs. Their legs are very powerful, both front and back legs, and it's just enormous amounts of sort of energy coming from their bum, like a sprinter. Leopards are good at running fast over a short distance, but they're not long distance runners. Not long distance runners. All the antelope that you see here are generally pretty good at running far, but the leopard needs to get really, really, really close with their camouflage, and then jump out like that and try and catch their food. So that is the objective. That is what they do. They're not like a cheetah. A cheetah's the bones are much smaller, or should I say much lighter. The body's longer, and they're not as strong as a leopard, but that allows them to run really, really fast. Really, really fast. But the cheetah's able to run really fast because, the leopard's back when it's running does this. The cheetah's back when it's running does that. So its front legs and its back legs are able to make it go much further when it jumps. When it runs, it goes much, much further. Yeah, there's some birds shouting over there. Often we get these very small little francolin birds that when they see a leopard, they start shouting. So we're going to go over there and see if we can find her, because leopards really do like to hide.
Well, they do like to hide, Steve. You're absolutely right. But these impala have just got a little bit nervous. It's almost like they know that something's wrong here next to the water. And they're not all impala. You see the one with the horns? That little one there, that's an impala. But the one behind it with the white stripes, that's a female nyala. See, they look quite similar, hey? But the boy nyala look quite different. Remember that one we were looking at earlier? So these ones are just mixing between species here. They very often walk together because, well, there's more eyes and ears then in case there's a predator like this leopard. If one of them hears or sees or smells the leopard, it can let the other ones know. So it's always safer if there's more of you, hey? Well, this leopard, Hosanna, is still lying in the grass here. Now, Isabella, look at how this leopard is blending in. It's because of his colors and his spots. He's in there in the grass, and he's got such good camouflage. It's almost the same color as this brown grass, and the spots help to break up the outline of his body. There's a little bit of his tail. Look how well he blends in. He's in there, but we can hardly see him. It is absolutely amazing how well he does that, hey? But it's all to do with his colors and how well he can lie very close to the ground as well. That's why they call it, you know, if you lie on the ground and then you move your arms backwards and forwards and you move forward, they call it a leopard crawl, because nobody crawls better than a leopard. And so that's very, very cool, isn't it? I'm just waiting to see if these impala or nyala come for a drink. Here's one of the big boys now. He's still quite nervous. He knows that something's not right here. I think he was able to see the leopard earlier when he was lying out in the open. But he's not quite sure that the leopard's left, and he would be quite right to be careful like that. And now there's some of the impala that are making their way down for a drink. It looks like they might have thought that the leopard's not here anymore. Now, Taylor, the leopard, likes to hide because he needs to hide so that he can catch these animals by surprise, because a leopard will eat an impala. It's one of their favorite foods. So these impala need to be very careful, because this leopard is now hiding in the grass, not very far away from them. I think the only thing that might be lucky for them is that he ate yesterday, and he ate a lot. So maybe he's not so hungry, but we're going to just have to wait and see. If he feels like hunting, he might try and chase one of these impala. But they need to get quite close to him before he chases them, because they'll be able to get away if they see him early enough. But you can see how careful they are. They know that something's wrong, but they don't know where this leopard is. So that if they come close enough, this leopard might jump out of the grass and try to catch one. See, that's a young male impala, that. Not very big, but it's a nice meal for a leopard. And if he had to catch one of them, he would then most likely drag it up into a tree, because the lions would also come if they hear this impala squealing when the leopard grabs him. And so if he takes it up a tree, then he'll be very safe. Look now, that impala just running through. Wow, did you see that jump? They're very agile, are the impala, hey? Very fast as well. So that's why the leopard needs to get very close before he tries. But this nyala is also very careful. As I say, he knows that something's wrong. Don't you wish you could tell them? But we can't speak nyala or impala, so we won't be able to. Now, Ryland, a leopard would eat one of these impala, maybe 2 or 3 in a week, but he could go a little bit longer. You see, if he ate a little one like that, shame, that wouldn't be so nice for the impala. But the leopard does need to eat. So if he ate a small one like that, maybe you would have to eat a few more of them in a week. And if he ate a bigger one like that, and like his big brother, he wouldn't have to eat so many. See there? There's different sizes, hey? There's a very small one and a bit of a bigger one. And then the nyala, all the way on the side there, that would maybe keep him for a whole week if he killed something that big. And he could kill something that big, but he would struggle to carry that up a tree. He'd have to be very, very strong to do that. Look at the nyala and the impala now. They're starting to drink. They're relaxing a bit. See, and it also makes it's not a good thing for them to put their heads down like that, because then they can't see if a predator is coming. And that's why they're so nervous when they're next to the water, because it does make it easier for the predator to come closer now. But I don't think that this leopard is too hungry, so he's just hiding so that these animals don't know that he's here, and then later maybe he's going to try again to catch something. But these guys might be lucky that he's not very hungry at the moment. See, it's always a question of survival when you're out here in the African bush. Everything is trying to survive. So we feel sorry for these impala and the nyala. But imagine that the leopard didn't eat for 2 weeks and he would get all weak and eventually he would die if he didn't eat. So he does need to get some food, and, well, sometimes it means that these impala or nyala have to die. That's the way of the wild, isn't it? So we just have to sit here and see what happens. But for the time being, it seems that everything and everyone is safe. Now, Cody, impala are similar to deer, but one of the biggest differences between deer and impala is that you see those horns that they have. These impala, they grow those horns, and they only grow one set of horns, whereas deer, they'll shed their antlers every year. So those antlers fall off and then they grow them again. But if an impala had to break one of his horns off, it won't grow back again. So you could have an impala with just one horn. And there's an inyala as well. He also doesn't grow his horns every year like a deer would with their antlers. He's only got one set, so he needs to be careful with his. But look at those. They're like a very nice, sharp weapon, hey? And they use that for fighting, and as well as defending themselves against the leopard. If he tried to catch him, he could always spear him with those horns. So that's the way he'll defend himself. Well, it seems like these nyala and impala get to live another day. And let's go and see how my friend James is doing.
I don't know about you, but I'm always quite glad when the impala and the nyala get to live another day. It's always a little bit sad when a predator kills one of them. Of course, that doesn't mean the predator's done anything wrong. They have to eat, and so they kill from time to time, but it's not very nice to watch something like that necessarily. So I'm quite pleased that for now, Hosana can lie there with his fat belly. He's had a lot to eat over the last little while, so we don't need to worry about that. And all those impala and nyala can escape and carry on with their lives. Like I said, it's quite a warm day today, and so we're going to head towards a waterhole not too far from here. We haven't managed to come up with any tracks of the leopard we were looking for, but that doesn't matter. We're still looking, and of course Steve is on foot looking, and that's the most effective way to look for things, because you can see what's going on the ground. Miss Sims, good day to you. Cubs will stay with their mums normally until they're just over a year old, or between a year and 18 months. Sometimes for the males up to 2 years. It often depends on whether the mother has another baby or not. As soon as she has another baby, well, then the one that she has at the moment must normally disappear. And that can be anything from as low as 8 months, very unusual that, but anything from, say, a year to 18 months to up to 2 years. For example, Hosana's mother died when he was just over a year old, but the leopardess that I'm looking for, Tandi, her last son left when he was just a year old. Oh, look, he's there. Can you see him there, Ferg? This is a very special creature. You see him there? It's called a plated lizard. And he lives in this hole. Isn't he special? He doesn't have a name at the moment, but he's the favourite friend of one of our guides who works up in Kenya. His name is David. And so I think that we should call this lizard David in his honour. David the plated lizard. So David, tell tell us about your day. Well, let me tell you a little bit about what David does during the day. He doesn't do a huge amount. He doesn't have to go to school. He's quite lucky in that respect. But it is quite cold at the moment. It's winter. And so a lot of the time he has to spend it inside there. And remember, for a reptile, which is not warm like a mammal, you are a mammal, you are warm generally. If you feel your body, you know that it's warm. You know that your mother or your father would take your temperature. There's another plated lizard. David and Daisy live here. But if you're feeling sick, your mum or your dad will take your temperature, and it'll normally be around about 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, a lizard's temperature is much colder than that, and so, much like a snake, it must sleep or hibernate during the summer months, at least during the winter months, sorry. But because our winters aren't very cold, they don't hibernate for very long. They can still come out and be around on a warm day like today. Just trying to find exactly what this fellow eats. I'm looking in my book. Ah, plated lizards. Right, I think he's a rough-scaled plated lizard. I don't think he's a giant plated lizard. Anyway, they are quite shy, and they eat insects and flowers and soft fruit. So they're what we call omnivorous. They eat insects and flowers and soft fruits. There's not a lot of soft fruits around here, I'll tell you that. Maybe in the summertime they eat marula fruits, which are the only really sweet, delicious fruits that we get here. He's a very special creature, that. And he'll just be a little bit sad that the sun has gone the other side of his mound. Madeline, no, not normally, you know. Lizards don't live together and protect each other as a family. And very seldom, in fact, do they even look after their children. Often their children just have to survive on their own. But that's the strategy that works for them, you know. For us as human beings, the strategy that works best for us is to live in families. But for lizards, it just doesn't work like that. And sometimes I know that when I hear something like that, it makes me feel a bit sad. It makes me think, well, maybe that lizard's lonely. Surely the little lizards don't like growing up without their mums and dads. But it's not like that, you see, because they don't think like we do. If they wanted to be in families, then I suppose they would be. And it's very nice to see them like this. We don't often have sightings like this, but in this very termite mound. He's living in a mound, of course, built by millions and millions of termites. Okay, we're going to head for the waterhole now. Let's see what we can find there. Stivovo is still steving on foot.
Yes, well, look what we spotted over there. There's an impala just crossing the road. That is the leopard we're looking for. One of her favourite meals. It's on its own. You don't want to be on your own out here in the African wilderness. Even us, we come out with friends. Oh, it's very, very dangerous. Because you need someone to watch your back. You see, when you're on your own, you don't have any time to feed because you're constantly looking. You're constantly looking. You don't have enough time to eat. Andrew, you want to know how dangerous it is for people to walk around? Well, if you're just the average person and you come out here, yes, it's quite dangerous. But if you understand how the wilderness works and you get trained, it takes a bit of time, then it's all about respecting the animals. The animals aren't out here to attack us. That's not their objective in life. They have seen us for a very long time in the African wilderness, and they're afraid of us. And their way of telling us they're afraid can sometimes be to hurt us. But the only time that they hurt people is when people are being silly and not really obeying the rules of the bush. And the rules of the bush is to be respectful, to listen, because we don't listen very well, most people. We're always talking and we're always making a lot of noise, but the animals are always communicating with us. We just have to learn how to listen. And sometimes it's not just with the ears, sometimes it's with the body language. A leopard that's doing this is not a very happy leopard. The leopard that's doing this, well, they're quite relaxed. So if we understand those things, we understand all the big dangerous animals, then we can be fine out here in the African wilderness. So we don't call them dangerous animals, we call them potentially dangerous, because that means there is the potential, the possibility of them hurting you if you are not doing what you're supposed to do. Okay, does that make sense? So obviously you need to be secure out here. My friend Rexon is up ahead here, and he has got a rifle. That is for safety, purely for safety, and no other reason. But we walk out in the African wilderness as if we have no rifle. Because if you walk with the rifle, or you think you are too brave, then that's when you get into trouble. So you just respect the animals in their space, listen all the time, and then life is fantastic. It's so wonderful to be out here on foot in the African wilderness. We're exercising, we're walking. Fresh air smells wonderful. It's good for the body, it's good for the mind, so good for the mind. Sometimes all you want to do is go to sleep.
Yes, indeed, especially when it's nice and warm like it is today, and you've had a really good meal last night, and that's when a leopard will really enjoy his sleep. And, well, all we can do is just sit and watch him and hope that maybe he's going to go for a drink or have a look at some of these other animals that come down for a drink as well. But for the time being, all he's doing is making himself look like the grass. And if we didn't know he was there, it would be difficult to see him, but we can see him breathing there a little bit. So at least we know that he's alive. That's one thing. But that is very nice to see how well he camouflages, hey? It always amazes me. Now, Isabella, leopards, they can sleep a lot, like your little cat. And if you ever have a cat at home, leopards sleep pretty much like those cats. Some are more lazy than others, and this cat, he can sleep quite a lot because he doesn't need to do too much, actually. He's got water here, and he's also got all the animals coming down to him because he's very clever sitting just next to the water. He doesn't need to go looking for the animals. They come looking for him. But they can probably sleep at least half of the day, and it also just depends on how much they've eaten before. So, and I wonder if there's any other little animals around here. We're looking for any of these little birds and things, but because it's quite warm now, it seems very quiet. There's not even any birds calling at the moment. But let's just have a look around if we can see any others. Oh, there's some. What are those? Those are called grey go-away birds. And why are they called that? Because they go quack, quack. They are quite pretty, aren't they? But very grey, and they eat fruit. They will eat fruit, these little birdies. Well, look there. And so there is quite a bit of fruit around at the moment, especially on the jackalberry trees. But look how he's putting his crest up on the top of his head. Wow. And you can see the trees there, they don't have any leaves on them, and that's because, well, we're in the winter months here in South Africa, and a lot of the trees lose their leaves in winter, and then they'll grow them back in summer. But not all of the trees will lose their leaves in winter. Some of them, they have leaves all year round. And what do we call those? Those are called evergreen trees. But this grey go-away bird is not sitting in an evergreen tree. And the grass is making a nice silver colour with lots of brown as well. And, well, there are lots of animals that will eat grass, and one of them's a waterbuck.
And that is a waterbuck right over there, if you can believe it. And they do like to eat grass, but they also like to live around water because it helps them to stay away from predators. Often the predators don't like to swim, you see. So if a lion comes and chases a waterbuck like this, he can come into the water and swim. And that long oily hair that he's got allows him to dry off very quickly. So this is a nice big water hole. Ooh, Miss English, it gets very warm here indeed in summertime. It will go over 40 degrees Celsius quite frequently. That's about 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit. No, it's not really that warm. It's about 100 and sometimes go up to 110 or so degrees Fahrenheit, so it can get very hot indeed. We've got some other creatures down here. Those there are called thick knees because they have thick knees apparently. There we go. Special birds called thick knees, and those are water thick knees. They like to live around the water. And they'll feed on little insects and crustaceans, so small snails that live on the shores. And then, possibly quite, or even the most special thing that we have here are freshwater terrapins. And if we look into the water, you can see these things that look like turtles swimming around. And they are called terrapins. Isn't that nice? And there are hundreds of them here. If we look carefully at the surface of the water, you can see a lot of them. They're only about, I'm going to say half a foot long. Some of the big ones are a little bit larger than that, but not much. And their most notable characteristic, I think, is the fact that they smell appalling. If you try and pick up a terrapin, you will not be able to eat anything until you've washed your hands very carefully. Harmony, there are plenty of little animals in the water by way of insect and crustacean. So you will find little water-dwelling insects, sometimes on the surface, sometimes underneath, sometimes larvae, which are sort of baby insects, baby mosquitoes and baby dragonflies and that sort of thing. And then also, eventually you'll find some fish here. It takes a long time for a dam like this to fill up with fish, and at one stage it did have a lot of fish, but then we had a big drought and it all dried out, and I haven't seen any fish since then. So for about 2 years there'd be no fish here. And then in summer you'll get frogs, lots of nice frogs, and that sort of thing will come through and live in the water hole. But in winter it's a little bit cold for frogs. And like I say, although it doesn't get very cold here, it's still cold enough for it to be too cold for frogs. Very peaceful afternoon. One of the things that won't be very peaceful, of course, around Horsana is a grey go-away bird.
Oh, and he's just flown down towards the water. That's always the luck, isn't it? We were watching a little grey go-away bird, but I think he's flown down for a sip of water. But here comes along just the edge of the dam wall. There's a little birdie there, and let's see if he shows us. There is Waggy Tail. You see, up and down, up and down. That's a very pretty little bird, and he's running around looking for insects next to the water. And he's just gone down there, and we're just looking for all sorts of little birds and things here because, well, this leopard is so camouflaged and sleeping in the grass. Oh, and there's some of the grey go-away birds again. They're up in the tree there. Seems like the same two. Maybe they're girlfriend and boyfriend. It looks like he's grabbing that one's toes. Look at that. They're having a little bit of a touchy-feely, and that one's saying, no, I don't like you anymore, I'm going over onto this branch. And he's, well, I'm coming with you then. Very cute, eh? the little pair. Yeah. They're just following each other around. But it looks like the one is trying to lose the other one, and he just keeps following, saying, "Come on, I want to be your friend." It looks like they're also thinking about going for a drink. But if they see this leopard, they will tell all the other animals around here as well. They'll go, "Kwee! Kwee!" The grey go-away birds. Very nice. Okay, so everyone, it's been a wonderful school drive. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you're going to join us again for another school safari as all the little birds come in for a drink. We're going to say goodbye to you for now, and I'm going to salute you and hope that you join us on another African adventure. Right, and while we sit and hope that this leopard does something, I'm going to head you on over to James, who I believe has left Buffelshoek Dam.
Yes, I have left the dam. Good afternoon to all of you who are not at school anymore. I hope this doesn't feel like school to you. I always said to myself when I was at school and I'd hear that ridiculous adage that school days are the best days of your life, I thought to myself, if this is all there is, I'm not sure I want to carry on. Mercifully, my school days were not the best days of my life. Okay, these are the best days of my life, obviously. Please talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive. You can ask us any questions, send us any comments that you might like to send us. Not a leopard in that tree, is it? No, it isn't. You can also use the chat stream on YouTube. But I have something very important to tell you. We are currently running a campaign to raise a little bit of cash for some schools out in this area. Now, there are 4 schools, one of which is Hananani Primary School in Dixie, which is just not too far from here, that have received the support of Wild Earth, Conservation South Africa, and of course Djuma Private Game Reserve. And what's happened is we've made a contribution, but those other organizations have built classrooms and supported the schools, and the latest initiative is to put high-speed internet into the schools, which we've done. We've achieved that, but now the kids need hardware basically to access the internet, and so what they need is a total of 12 computers and 2 TV screens so that they can watch SafariLive and learn about the environment. So we're hoping to play an important part in their education as well. They are of course going to be the custodians of this area. Now, if you would like to help us out in this endeavor, you can do so in one of 2 ways. I'm going to stop because I'm going to have to read exactly the URL you can go to. The first thing you can do is make a PayPal donation of any amount, and you will receive a drawing made by the great Graham Wallington himself, just one rung below Picasso in terms of modern artists. It is of Thandi and Tlalamba, and let me just read quickly. You use this following email, and Louise will strap this for us across the screen now. You go to PayPal, and the email address you put in is thandi-tlalamba@wildearth.tv. Any amount will get you a high-definition or high-resolution version of the sketch by Mr. G. Wallington, a.k.a. Picasso. It doesn't look like a Picasso, mercifully. You can actually see that they are Thandi and Tlalamba. If it was a Picasso, there'd be a couple of squiggles. Or you can buy a T-shirt with the same picture of Thandi and Tlalamba on them at teespring.com/Thandi and Tlalamba. That's teespring.com/Thandi and Tlalamba. Have you strapped that, Louise? Right, so it's all, she's so far ahead of me, so it's all strapped. So what we're trying to get is 12 computers and 2 TV screens for the kids of 4 very underprivileged schools out here in the rural areas of southern Africa, and hope that that helps them to fall in love with nature, and in so doing become the next custodians of this marvellous and wondrous wildlife area where we are also privileged to spend our time. So that's that. And if you want to know a little bit more about it, you can just go to our Facebook page, the SafariLive Facebook page, and the blog that explains the whole thing in a little bit more detail than I have done there is on our it's pretty close to the top of our Facebook page feed. All right. So that's it. Let's go and look for Thandi and Tlalamba. In the meantime, let us go across to Steve, who I believe has actually found some tracks now of these cats.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody, again. Well, we have been on the tracks of Thandi and Tlalamba herself, and this lady is really making a show of it today. This morning I was with her, and she walked into the drainage. We followed her, she crossed back again, and now we went to the last position I left her this morning. She walked back in this direction, and then she went back again, and now she's come back. And we followed all the way to here. Now we got fresh tracks coming back. So I don't know what she's teaching her little youngster. She's teaching Tlalamba to go up and down, up and down, up and down. So Rex is just down in the drainage having a little look. No doubt he's very convinced that those last tracks we saw were extremely fresh. No dust. Beautiful, clean track just in the sand. Very likely that the two of them, because that pathway will go all the way to Buffelshoek Dam. We communicated with James to have a look in that area. She probably went and drank, and now she's come back again. Maybe she doesn't want to go that side because of Tingana and Hosana around the watering hole. I don't know. She seems to like that side. I mean, when last did we get her drinking on Voyatella watering hole? It's been some time. Okay, well, Rex is just having a little look while we wait for him to come back. Let's have a look here at some of the damage that's been created. We're going to continue with the leopard talk soon, folks. Sure, the PayPal account, folks. Oh, Rex is calling me. The PayPal account. I just need to double check that I get it 100% correct. Okay, it's the PayPal account email address, folks, is thandi-tlalamba@wildearth.tv. It'll be strapped right there. Have a look. Thank you very much for your contributions. Okay, well, we're going to go down into the drainage. Rexon seems to have found some fresher tracks. Let's go get an update and see exactly where she's gone. I was going to talk about something there, but don't worry. Leopard tracking takes priority over something we can always come back to. Sorry, Seb. It's a very low-hanging branch. This is Seb walking around. You've got to bear that in mind, folks, that when he walks, he's walking like this with a huge aerial on his back. I always forget. It's like when you wear a hat, you often hit your head on things because you can't see above you. So wearing a hat as a builder is a bad idea. So anyway, we're going to go down here, have a look at these tracks, see where they're going. We're going to go over to Ralph in the meantime and see what his updates are about the little chief.
Well, I've left Hosana sleeping in the grass. We'll let him have his little snooze while we go and look and see what else we can find. Now, I'm coming down this Twin Dams Road, and I'm going to just move along the Mlolwati a little bit, try and follow up. I know that Thandi Tlalamba were in the area this morning, sort of Ingwe Alley and this Twin Dams Road area, and I'll check up towards Treehouse Dam. There's that one of these little residents, Steenbok, but he's probably going to run away. Let's just see if he maybe stays there. And there we go. Normally if you switch off, then you can very often run away. But there he is. He's still doing exactly what Steenbok usually do. Very characteristic. Freezing. I can't see. Oh, yeah, it's a little male. Two little horns. I think I might have heard some branches breaking. They might. Yes. I think these elephants are back here in the river, in the dry river. Maybe we'll go and have a look and see if we can find them after we've spent a little time with this pretty steenbok. And there's a lot of oxpeckers as well that I can hear. It's not always that it would be buffalo with red-billed oxpeckers, very, very indicative of yellow-billed oxpeckers. When they call, it normally indicates buffalo around. It would be nice if there's some buffalo, because that would always mean, well, generally that the lions would follow. But don't know of any lions on the property at the moment. And this little steenbok just happily going about, I think, picking up some of those guarri berries on the ground there. Really picking and choosing at what he's feeding on. I don't know exactly. I think it might be some little berries that he's getting. He's a good-looking little fellow. Very defined features, and massive eyes. It seems like this is his little territory, because we've seen him here before, and I've walked past him as well. So I think this would most likely be his little spot. Not the first time I've seen him. Quite happy now to carry on about his business, that we've given him a chance to settle. Also massive ears, obviously enabling him to, pick up on predators that are coming nearby. A very white stomach. Now, Seanak, steenbok, they're a bit of mixed feeders. They can feed off the ground like that, and I'm pretty sure that because that's next to a guarri there, I'm pretty sure that it's most likely to be little guarri fruits that he's feeding on there. So yes, you can generally feed off the ground. They can also browse a little bit. At the moment in winter, well, he's got to be quite specific on what he's looking for, because there's not too much around, and if there is some protein that is hanging in there, then it's definitely worthwhile for him to have a bit of a taste. Okay, I think we should go down into the Mlolwati a bit and just see what that noise was. As well as with all these oxpeckers around, it does tell me that there's some animals here nearby. So let's go down there and see if we can see if it is indeed elephants. All right, so still a little bit warm and a little bit quiet around, but I'm searching. So is Steve out on foot, and so is James.
Everybody's searching for everything. Yes, we are. We've come onto the road that we drove on before, Central Road. It is called Central Road, of course, because it goes through the, yes, well done, centre of Djuma. And apparently Rex and Steve did find tracks of Thandi crossing this road a little bit further along, going towards the north, which is ironically, well, I don't suppose it's an irony at all. It's interestingly where Tingana went this morning. So perchance all three of them are together again. It would be a highlight of my year to see Tingana and Tlalamba interacting in some way. I believe they were doing it on Torchwood yesterday. Tlalamba was making physical contact with Tingana, which, I mean, I've certainly never seen it before. I'm sure it's happened before, but I haven't seen it. And I know that Horsana often used to try and sort of go and visit his father, and his father wasn't never that pleased to see him. He would hiss and bare his substantial fangs. Anyway, we might be lucky to have all three of them together. It would be a great delight and a joy. Otherwise, not an enormous amount going on out here. As Ralph has said, it is warm. 75 degrees. Not bad for winter, eh? I bet many of you must be sitting there thinking, gosh, I wish it was that warm here in summer. All Alrighty, let's pop up here. Ah, the Magic Dragon Wizard is back. Hello, Magic Dragon Wizard. It's lovely to hear from you. I think that Hosanna is unlikely to be back for good. As I often say, the quickest way to end up with eggies on one's face is to make a statement that in some way insinuates a biological fact. There are very few biological facts as far as animal behavior goes. They are constantly confounding the textbook. So, textbook-wise, no, he won't stay. He'll hang around for a little while and then carry on. And his wanderings will become greater and greater. I'm just going to talk to Rexon. Go ahead. Ingenele. Ula kuti ingenela. Alright, and hina ita driver lao gume itangena. Okay. Alright, so Rexon is giving us some instructions. When Rexon speaks, I say, yes, sir. He says that this leopard's gone up this way, but we need to go into the drainage line to have a look. I think they're going to go round the way. Anyway, let's go and see what we can find down here. Righty, while we follow up here, Ralph, of course, has already got a leopard.
Yes, I did, and I'm sure we're going to have another one later when we go back and hang with Hosanna again next to the waterhole as it's heading towards sunset. But I've just come here into the Mlolwati after it sounded like there might have been some elephants around. I haven't spotted them just yet. But I'm just working this drainage line. Sounds like James and Steve are doing something similar, but we're not in the same area, or at least I hope not. I think they're a lot further to our northeast, up near Buffels Hook. So I'm just working down along here. I'll come out at Twin Dams and then work my way up to a little bit west from there towards Treehouse Dam. And then I'll loop around in the west and see if anything's made its way onto the property, whether it be lions or the young male leopard, a little bit older than Hosanna, Hukumuri, as well as the reasonably young female as well, Shudulu, who like coming in from the western side. So they sort of move in and out, and always nice to see if they have moved in, then we can search for them. So we'll check for tracks or signs or listen out for any alarm calls, and for the moment just trying to pick up on anything really. James, yes, I think it was Tristan that gave us some news that the cheetah family are not far from us, and they were moving in an easterly direction, so I might even pick up on their signs. The chances of them having moved on are small, but there is a chance. And we'll just have to go and see, because I believe they weren't too far from us, and when they were last seen, as I say, they were heading in an easterly direction. But anything could have happened in between. The moment after the last station or last vehicle was with them, they could have turned around and headed back. Yeah, the last news was that they were heading in our direction. So that would be great as well. So there's the potential of the cheetah family, the Nkahumas, the lions, and one or two leopards that could move in from that side. So always good to check on the western side, especially when our other team members are checking on the eastern side. So we'll just do the west and make this search party checking all the different channels and areas, see if there's anything else around. I always check here in these very big leadwood trees and these tambutis next to the river here, because I've often found some owls, especially the Verreaux's eagle owl, the biggest of them all. He likes to hang out in these big trees here as well. So you just got to look very carefully though, because he's very well camouflaged and he sits very still on these branches. So just having a little squiz just to see if he's around or anything else. And I like it down here when it's quite hot. I like checking drainage lines and things, because not that it's boiling, it's not overly hot, but it is, you know, sort of before that temperature starts cooling down as the sun heads towards the horizon. So the animals might still be just taking a little bit of shade. Always good to check these cooler areas when it's nice and warm. And the elephants have been spending quite a bit of time down in these drainage lines as well, for obvious reasons, as I just mentioned. Always good. Check it out. Seems rather quiet. You know, we've had quite a few days of very cold weather, and now that it's warmed up, I wonder, just relatively, the animals may be feeling it a little bit because they've adjusted to the cold. And now that it's quite warm, they may be feeling a little bit lethargic. Birds aren't calling. Now, Rosalind, I definitely do think that animals recognize people's voices, especially your more intelligent species like elephants. I am 100% certain that elephants, ones that I have encountered, do know me or recognize me when I come back. I do often talk nice and softly with the animals, elephants in particular. It's not trying to talk to them in a way that I think they understand me. It's just the tone of your voice, just making it nice and calm and showing that you're not nervous, you're not scared, you're not aggressive. And I definitely do think that the elephants recognize my voice. Again, I think they probably also recognize my smell, whether it's good or bad, I'm not quite sure, but they generally, you know, I've had a few encounters with different elephants, and when I've, you know, for different periods. Now, Bobby, you want me to find elephants? I will definitely try. I do love spending time with elephants, and I might just go past this the old elephant carcass here as well. We'll see how much the live animals have actually moved that skull of the one that died, because it's incredible. It seems like they've rolled it all the way down the hill towards the waterhole. And you know, for me, that's just, they're quite curious about death, I think, and also pay their respects to one of their fallen comrades. And so you can see a lot of movement and interest around a place where an elephant dies, and there's a lot to be said around that, and there's been a lot of studies around it and lots of stories. And it's very well known that you don't get elephant graveyards, I would say, but you do have the elephants returning to places of death, and they understand that one of their kind has passed away. Now, just moving up here towards that spot. So let's go up here and have a look. Now, with that other question, you know, I've had different encounters with different specific elephants and individuals, and whether it was a good encounter or a bad encounter, the next time sort of followed on from that. So if I met a very angry elephant and he didn't really like me being around, I found that with him going forward as well, and almost maybe I did something wrong to irritate him. Maybe I was there at the wrong time or what, I don't know, but I've had that. And then I've had very good encounters with elephants, and that's always then proceeded from there. And when we've had altercations as well, it's always, the elephants have then continued on from there. Now, here's this elephant skull. I'll just stop here. And we can see how it's probably about, I don't know, about 25 meters away from where it actually died, and the other bones are scattered around. And this is the skull and the top part of the jaw as well. The bottom part is up over there and all spread around, hey? That obviously being a lot to do with the predators and the scavengers. They would have spread those bones around there, but the skull is too big for them to move, so definitely don't believe that this has been moved by hyenas. Absolutely, for me, 100% the elephants sort of touching it and prodding it and maybe sniffing and showing that interest that I was talking about. And I think they might have now rolled this down the path, as I say, towards where Twin Dams is. So very interesting around elephants, and I'd love to see an elephant herd actually come past here and see or just witness the kind of interest that they do show. Because I've said it before, there's a lovely book called Elephantums, and just speaks to all sorts of elephant phantoms around the world, and mostly to do with African elephants. And the one story that they told in that book was I think it was in the UK, either in the UK or in America, in a zoo. They had where one elephant died in one of the enclosures for, I can't remember what the reason was, but he died in a particular spot, and then obviously they moved the carcass out, and they replaced it a little bit later after they'd cleaned it out and everything, and then they put another elephant in there, and that elephant was very oh, lots of birds flying over us, starlings. He was very curious as well as almost very respectful in that particular spot where that elephant had died. And it was very clear that he understood that there was death, or that, almost a psychic feeling or something, that this elephant knew that another elephant had died in that exact spot. And for me, that's incredible. Whether he could smell something or he could feel something, it's difficult to tell. But whether or whatever prompted him to act in a strange way there, there was definitely a feeling that he knew that one of his friends had died. So very sad, but very, very intelligent animals they are. Right, let's head you on over to the bushwalk team while I go and see if I can find some leopard tracks.
Good luck, Ralph. Lovely stories about elephants. We can go on and on and on for days about them. They are very special animals. Well, we've done a big loop, and Rexon has got his nose to the ground like a bloodhound. James is helping us in the area, looking at the smallest signs. Thandi was definitely in here with Kalamba hunting, and I've got the feeling that she's probably got something. The amount of effort she's put in, which just goes to show how hungry she was, and maybe she was trying to do all the ups and downs to lose Tingana. Maybe he'd try and follow her and steal her food again. She wouldn't want that, so maybe this up and down motion that she's done is to lose him. Well, it's losing us as well, but we might be lucky. Rexon is an excellent tracker, and he knows exactly how to find Rosalind. Kalamba is most certainly the youngest leopard here at the moment, and then it would be, at the moment standing, Hosana, 2.5 years, and then Shadulu pops back in again. She's about 4.5-ish. I don't really know exactly how old she is, but she's about that sort of age. And then it would be, Thandi and Tingana are very similar in age. Quarantine I've never seen, so I don't know really too much about him. And Kuchava's Thandi's daughter, so she's definitely younger than Thandi. I don't 100% know. I haven't seen her yet either. Tristan knows lots about her. Apparently she might be coming back into the area soon, and Tristan was getting very excited at breakfast. He was showing us a picture of Tamba, which is also Thandi's son, on his way back, and he's just a couple months younger than Hosana, so he would be leopard number 2. 6 months younger or so. So he would be number 2 with regards to age, yeah. So, but he's been away for a few months, just like his cousin Hosana was. And maybe Tumble will come back into his familiar area to hang out with his mum, Tandi. Probably not, but it would be nice if he did. Hosana's behavior this week is will be 2 weeks by the end of this week. It's just been fantastic. I think he spent the whole evening on the dam cam, or the whole morning anyway, just sitting there. I made the statement this morning, Hosana's going to need an agent because of all the publicity he's going through. Okay, well, we're just walking very delicately, listening. Rex, and I think, you know, people like Rex and Herbie that are so good at tracking, when they find fresh tracks like that, they just get it in them. They've got to find it now. You can actually see frustration boiling inside of them if they don't find the cat. They're very good at it, and Rexon is one of the best I've ever worked with. You'll point things out and you'll both be like, okay, yeah, I see that. It's just a lot of time. It's a lot of time, a lot of practice. And a lot of the skill also comes in knowing the area and the behavior of these certain animals. If you've tracked them for years and years and years, you know exactly where they like to go. I'm already starting to get that sort of feeling with Tingana, and Tandi is just, she's a mover. She really can move. You know, we're spending time in areas we kind of know where the animals are, what pathways they're going to use. You can see we're on a very nice game path now. And the tracks we had over coming back were just a little bit sort of more to our north, you could say, northwest. Earlier, so she's really been going up and down, up and down. She doesn't want us to find her. Namaste. Yeah, they all need agents. They're all superstars. Indeed. Indeed. Is anyone out there offering? Don't talk to me. It's got nothing to do with me. They all need agents, eh, Seb? Yeah, they're superstars. Rock stars. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you're familiar. Lou, is that your question? That must be a question from Lou. Lou is asking, do you think that the leopards would have any strange requests, like a photo of Hosana on their bed when they walked into the hotel room? I think, oh, definitely some strange requests. Tandi would like carpaccio, a Deka carpaccio when she arrives. Yeah, the lions would like the sounds of buffaloes. I don't know if that would help them sleep, though. I think they would just get them all excited. Anyway, lots of nonsense spoken. Can talk for days. Okay, well, talking about nonsense, let's go over to nonsense himself.
Nonsense, yep. I do like talking nonsense, but I'm not going to talk nonsense now. I'm trying to find any sign of leopards. See, I'm walking up the road. That's very indicative of a hyena track. You always get them sort of, they walk a bit funny. You get that understep, so you have this very big front foot and then the much smaller back foot and shorter leg as well, stepping behind it. So when they're walking, they have an understep, or you know, it steps, the back foot steps behind the front foot, and so you can actually see just by the pattern of the trail on the road if it's a cat or a hyena, just by that pattern. And so you don't really need to see the detail, but very often you can also, it looks like a lion or a leopard, and then you slow down and you see that it's just a hyena. But I always try to just look for that pattern the hyena, with the front foot and the back foot behind it. Whereas the lions and leopards, generally if they're at a normal walking pace, they will direct register, and if they speed up, then that back foot starts coming slightly in front of the front feet, but much more in a straight line as well. Hyenas almost the front feet quite a bit further apart than the back feet, so it's almost like a squirrel in a way, where their front feet are way much more apart than the back feet. So you can see that pattern in the road. Right, we're heading up here towards Treehouse Dam. No sign of elephants for the moment, but who knows, maybe we'll see something coming for a drink here. Lovely drainage line on our right hand side as well. Who knows, maybe there's something lurking and on its way for a drink on a nice warm winter's day. I can hear some southern black tits calling. Lovely little black birds with the white on their wings. Here is Treehouse Dam. As I thought, there's nothing really happening here, but it's always worth a look. There's a little terrapin there. Let's just stop and have a look. Now, MJ, I would say that we are in need of some rain at the moment. A lot of the pans are drying up, but it's quite normal for this time of year. As we see the odd little terrapin poking his head out of the water. And as these little pans dry up, you can often get quite a lot of oil and mineral salts and things along the banks as well, because everything's being concentrated now with the evaporation that's occurring. Without replenishment, you do have whatever is in the water being concentrated now. So you can often find these little terrapins, well, they often just poking their heads through almost like an oily substrate on the surface there. You can see it's almost quite thick, you know, so it's a different viscosity when it starts drying up. And it's quite interesting to note that that's very similar up in the northern parts of the Kruger. It's one of the biggest areas for anthrax, and well, it gets concentrated now in the winter months along the shoreline of these water holes, and so you do have a bigger occurrence of it when it's dry like this in winter. And very interesting that the anthrax occurrence in the northern parts of Pafuri and Makuleki at this time of the year. And I actually was present where they were doing a study on the effect that the vultures have on spreading of anthrax to the neighboring farmers from the Kruger National Park, and they had set up a big cage that they were trying to just catch some of these vultures and test or take samples from them, from their gullet, and also, you know, just swabs from their body, and see how much, if they've got anthrax on them, if they would be transferring that. Because it's quite interesting to note as well that vultures actually digest anthrax. So there's this whole dichotomy with the study that we were helping with in trying to catch these vultures and test them, because in one way they are definitely help to reduce the occurrence of anthrax, but with the same hand they're also, well, they were trying to see if they were spreading it as well, because if they come and feed on a carcass that has anthrax in the Kruger Park, and then possibly go and move off and feed on a dead cow off the Kruger National Park, then they would be spreading it. However, with them feeding on an animal that has anthrax, they might be digesting it. So it was this whole study, and I never saw the outcome of that, but something to look into and see. I'm sure it's still ongoing, and I don't think that there would have been any results as of yet, because it had just started, and you need to do a few years of studies, as you would know with research. It's normally quite a lengthy process, and I'm sure that they'll still be going on with that. And we had the state vet and everybody, because the problem was actually to try and trap these vultures. So they'd put up this sort of metal structure and then put food in it, but without closing it, to try and get the vultures to go there and relax with just this metal frame. And then later they would try and cover it and get the vultures to go in there and relax and go and eat meat. And at a later stage, so it was this whole capture process was really a difficult one. And because then later they would introduce with the enclosure, then they would get comfortable with them going inside, and then at some stage they wanted to wait until they had at least 15 vultures in the box to drop the door, and obviously then there's going to be chaos. But once you drop the door, and these vultures then got a fright with that, you know, obviously they could then do all their tests and everything they needed to, but then they'll never go back into that box. So they've only got one shot at it. And so that was this whole procedure and what was so lengthy about it, and trying to get these vultures to relax with this box. And one mistake and they could basically pack up and move to another area, because those vultures will never go back in a box again. And you know, you've got a lot of vultures that will move massive distances, and so you might come across the same vultures and they could also be nervous around new vultures to the box. Anyway, a very interesting topic, so you guys should look into that if you like. And let's continue on the leopard search and head you off to James, who I think is doing something similar.
I'm trying so hard, and I've got nothing to tell you, nothing about leopards at all. I'm sorry. We are doing our best, I promise. Andy, I suspect that a male leopard recognizes its cub from smell. They obviously have very sensitive noses, very sophisticated olfactory senses. They have a very well-developed organ of Jacobson, which is vestigial in the human being, or the vomeronasal organ, and I think that picks up familiar pheromones such that the leopard will know that this is my baby. But also, I think that there's an element of that, but on the other hand, I say that I suspect that the presence of the mother has something to do with it, because we know that females will go out of their male's territories when they come into estrus sometimes, mate with another male, come into their own territories where there's another male at home, have a baby, and he will then presumably not kill that youngster because he will assume that it is his own. So perhaps it's actually more an association with the mother. In fact, the more I think about it, the more likely I think that is. So, as we know, male leopards are a leading killer of leopard cubs, and that's normally when they think those cubs are not their own, of course, and they would think they were not their own, I suppose, by not meeting them with the mother, if that makes sense. Also, I suppose it would be males seeking territory outside of, or just establishing territory. So if I was a non-territorial male leopard and I came into a territory and there were females with cubs, I would probably kill those cubs knowing that they weren't mine, because of course I would know that because I hadn't mated with any of them. This was a new territory. So it's probably a combination of all those things. Tingana is living under the assumption that any cub born within his territory must be his. I doubt he knows too much about the, shall we say, liberal ways of some leopardesses who will happily go out of territory to mate with male leopards that operate other areas. So, that's quite a nice discussion actually. How does a male leopard know if a youngster is his or not? Fascinating. I've had no further tracks Tingana came somewhere up here earlier today. You know, at a bit of a loss, I'm afraid. I think that Thandi and Tlalamba are in the block where Steve and Rex are. And that, of course, means that, well, it's a very thick block, and I'm not just going to drive in there blundering about. Sorry, Louise, Supite. Superbikes. Superbike? Superbikes! You want to know what the aim of the SafariLive gauntlet is? Well, for the animals, it's to make it through the gauntlet, to come out the other end unscathed. You know, if you're a wildebeest, well, then it's lions, leopards. If you're a lion, it's other lions, or starvation. If you are a cheetah, it is other predators, hyenas, and the loss of cubs to those creatures. If you are a leopard out here, it's the gauntlet of other males coming in and taking over territory and perhaps posing a threat to youngsters. So there are lots of gauntlets in the wilderness, and the aim of the gauntlet, I guess, is to get through it to the other side. If you're talking about what the aim of the series is, well, the aim of the series is to present a narrative of some main characters and how they survive the wilderness gauntlet, how they navigate the wilderness gauntlet. And those characters will be introduced to you, or many of you know most of them. It's obviously the leopard here. It's the Sausage Tree Pride in the Masai Mara with Brent Leo Smith. It's Kakenya the cheetah with Scott Dyson in the Masai Mara. The amazing goings on with the North Clan of Hyena with Jamie Patterson. Taylor McAdee is on the banks of the river. That's possibly the ultimate gauntlet of the wilderness, the Mara River, during the migration season. Tristan and I are here fiddling about with the leopards, which is very exciting. And Steve is doing the same, actually. So from our point of view, it's to present some kind of narrative of how our main characters navigate the gauntlet that is the wilderness. Superbikes, I hope that answers your question. A couple of elephant tracks here on the northern boundary. Ah, that's gone. What did she say? Link to Steve, because he is searching for Thandi. Bye!
We're still trying to search for Thandi, and it is a very hot day here today. Shorts and hot weather, and so our thoughts are that where's Thandi gone? There's no reports of her at Boitela watering hole. Buffelshoek, we've walked all the way through. We're coming close to Buffelshoek watering hole now, and we're going to go and have a look in and around there and see if she's come down to drink, because being very water dependent, either she's killed something and she's drunk its blood. Ooh, very gory that sounds. That's what animals do. Or she's come to drink after a long effort of failing and failing and failing. So, nothing yet, but you might wonder what this branch is in my hand, and this is actually a branch of a leadwood. I'm going to be doing a leadwood segment very shortly. Very, very easy to identify the leadwood by these branches. Can you see? The branches are... Okay, well, we're going to stop. Rex and spotted something. Okay, he's calling us. Come. We're going to be very quiet. Don't know what he spotted. Sorry, Sebastian's lost his radio. Where does that go? There we go. It was something very big that we're not really allowed to talk about. We're going to keep going this way. Okay, well, I think it's disappeared into the thickets, moved off, crashed away, and we have lost sight of it. As they do. Just going to go a little bit further forward. Joshua, hyena run normally if they see you. They might give you a little bit of space, they might lie down, they might walk, but quite often they run away. It also depends on how used to humans they are. The hyena we get in and around here, they come to our camps a lot, so they're not too afraid of us, but if you walk towards them, they'll run away every time. They're not really regarded as dangerous because they are quite skulky. They often move away from you, but very dangerous if you leave your door open or if you camp out at night and you fall asleep and there's no one to watch. They can be very dangerous then. They'll come in closer and closer and closer. If no one chases them away, then they'll end up maybe grabbing your face or something like that. So in that way, they can be very dangerous. But out here on foot, no problem at all. Even in groups. I mean, when we do all these walks, we do often do what we log dangerous game encounters, potentially dangerous game encounters, and you can log a clan of hyena on foot because they are potentially dangerous in a group. You know, what would you do if 7, 8 hyena decided that they like the back of your leg, for example? You've got to deal with it. But I've never logged hyena on foot. You can also log ostrich. I never want to ever be that person to log an ostrich and then get someone to sign off ostrich. Anyway. Minamu, ostriches do well in open areas. They are grazers and they're highly predated on by cheetah, leopard and lion. So we don't see many of them in the area. Rex, when last did you see an ostrich? I remember you saw one up in Buffelshoek not so long ago, hey? About 3 months ago, Rexon saw 2 ostriches up in Buffelshoek and he called it on the radio. He was very excited. But there was quite an open area, I'm guessing, Rex. Yeah, very open area. They taste very good meat. And they have to feed and their head has to go all the way down and look around. And then when they feed, they go all the way to the bottom. So they're very susceptible to being snuck upon. So they need to be in very open areas, otherwise they get caught. So that's one of the major reasons. But there are places you find a few in the Kruger. But they do very, very well in the west of South Africa where there's far less predators. But I know someone who knows lots about giraffe. He's seen many of them in his life. Sometimes he's as tall as one. Ralph Kirsten.
Well, let's hope that we can find some little signs of these cats that we haven't seen for a while. Well, the Unkuhumas we saw not so long ago, a day or 2 ago, and we had lots of action with them. But I haven't seen Hukumuri for a long time, and I'm holding thumbs that that's what's going to happen. That's why I'm just working this western area nice and slowly, just in case there's anything that I can hear or see, or just check the movement in the bush. So I'm going very slowly in anticipation of that we could very easily pick it up if he is moving through here. And you can see where that sun is at the moment, that it is starting to head towards that good time. Now, firefox, I would say the biggest animal a leopard would take down, probably something like a female kudu, a male inyala. I wouldn't put it past, you know, a nice experienced male leopard. Tingana, even Hukumuri could probably do it, but whether or not they'll be able to actually get it up a tree is another question. However, when I was in the Masai Mara, we saw that one that had killed a giraffe. It was a baby giraffe, but still a big animal nonetheless, and got it up the tree. So that's the biggest prey that I've ever seen a leopard take down and haul up a tree. So it's not actually past taking a decent-sized female kudu up a tree as well. I suppose it all depends on the real size of the leopard, but at least that gives you a good indication of this sort of boundary. For instance, Dulu, she couldn't take. Well, it was supposed that because she killed a ram impala, quite a big male impala, and it seemed like it was too big for her to take up the tree, and she had to wait for the hyenas to eat a bit of it and lighten it up before she could take it up. So that for me is probably borderline with the females. Big male impala, that's probably there more or less. And you know, maybe some bigger females would be able to take something slightly bigger than that. Maybe an Inyala female, a big one. And then the males, yeah, as I say, baby giraffe. I wouldn't say a male kudu. I think that's too big, too heavy. And so they could probably take about 3/4, if not their own body weight. So we're talking between, you know, around about 80 kilograms, I would say, is the max. But I've seen bigger leopards than that. So maybe I would say maximum about 100 kilograms. I would say the potential is of a leopard actually killing and dragging, and that's a male leopard, obviously. Females, you know, good 20 to 30 kilograms lighter, the big male leopard. So we're just going to keep on searching through this thick, dry grass, and hopefully we can find one of these leopards. But, well, it seems like, I can't remember who was looking for elephants out of the viewers, but it seems like James has done just that.
Yes, I found some elephants. I just sounded a little bit sort of nonplussed there because, well, we weren't really looking for them. They just sort of appeared, and that's very good. As the old safari cliche goes, you never know what you're going to find around the next corner. Bobby, yes indeed, they are for you, these elephants, I believe. I believe you wanted to see elephants. Well, here they are. Bobby's herd. One very large one at the front, a couple of smaller ones behind. There are more than 3, aren't there? I thought we saw a lot more than 3 to start with. Yes, there are. There are a whole lot more. We'll just keep going a little bit and hopefully it'll clear up bushwise a bit further forward. I think they're going to head down towards the water. Whether they go towards where Hosanna is lying in ambush or the Galago Pan round the other corner, I think it's probably most likely they'll go towards Galago Pan, but they might have a little interaction with Hosanna. All right, we'll stop here. There's a nice little one looking at us there. There we go. Hello, little fellow. Pretty sure that's the matriarch out front. Naturally, as soon as we stop, they hide. And it is their wont. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there are only 5 of them. It's a very small herd, very peaceful. That one there showing us its bottom. And this one not so much. Very relaxed they are. Say this was a little cow, probably aged, I could be wrong, but I would say a cow. Aged around 8 or so. No, it's a little bull. It's a little bull aged around 8. I can tell that from the sheath between his back legs. They do have, of course, internal genitalia, so it can be quite difficult. But the opening underneath there is different on the bulls from the cows. Picking up the last bits of green. I think the trees must really detest this time of the year. Not so much because there's no water, but because the elephants come and eat them. See, Nak, they used to do it with the stars and with a sextant. That was how they used to navigate, but much like us, they've moved on to more modern methods. They now use Google Maps quite effectively, and they have special apps that are designed to be used with just the 2 fingers that they have at the edge of their prehensile tips. And, you know, from those advanced mapping apps, they're able to find water and good food and that sort of thing. The matriarch normally carries the smartphone, and that's basically how they find it. Sometimes the youngsters have to teach her.
Constantly bombarded with adverts.
Yes. Yes. And she does have a good power bank, Louise. What they do is they walk with the kinetic energy of their movement charges their smartphones. Sinak, I am, of course, being completely and utterly facetious. They don't really use sextants, and they never did, nor do they use smartphones. They orientate with memory, as far as I am aware. So I think you'd find that most animals have a sense of direction. Obviously, they don't define it like we do. Let's go a little bit forward. And they don't define the cardinal points, but they have a sense of direction. And that probably comes from, I think it's in the cornea that you find a magnetic substance. It's not iron, but it's something, it's not iron at all. So I think it's cobalt, actually. I always forget exactly. There we go, a beautiful little one there. And basically what happens is they'll get a sense of direction, they'll sense the Earth's magnetism, and from that sense of direction they will be able to orientate themselves towards the memory of good feeding places and good drinking spots. And those memories, of course, are taught to the youngsters. Does that help? So I don't think it's anything quite as exotic as dung beetles who use the Milky Way to orientate themselves, or the bees which use the polarization of light to orientate themselves. I think that they manage to orientate themselves simply with memory and a sense of direction, but I could be wrong. It might be more sophisticated than that. They do move substantial distances in some places. You know, in Botswana they will go many hundreds of kilometers during a season, you know, with the change of the seasons from dry to wet. Here, I don't think they move quite as far as that. They don't need to. Water and food are sort of less seasonal in terms of where they can get it. So, I mean, there are always there are always places where they can get water within sort of, I'd say, 10 or 12, 20 kilometers. Very nice. Let us continue down the road. I want to catch up with the matriarch there. Larry, I think it is actually true that they can communicate or certainly sense rumblings through their feet, whether that's from their own stamping on the feet or stamping on the ground, or whether it is from actually picking up some kind of vibration that they make with their vocal cords, I don't know. But they do seem to be able to pick up some sort of communication from their feet. Absolutely. And very interestingly, when the elephants were being culled in the Kruger National Park, which ended around about 1996, I think it was, if they were culling a herd in the far south of the park, 50 to 100 kilometers to the north, the elephants would be getting together in a nervous wreck. So they do communicate over enormous distances. Quite exactly how it works, I don't know. I think there are probably people who are a lot more clued up about it than I am, but they can communicate over big distances. Just going to turn off here. This little one next to us isn't that happy to be around us. The matriarch at the front there, and I'm assuming she's the matriarch because she's the most enormous cow here. I'm assuming that she's going towards the water, actually. I think she's quite thirsty. I think also that the youngster there is irritating her by trying to suckle, and so she's doing that kind of funny walk that she was doing. I guess it could be described as the elephant walk, really. Tarja, a male in must is not necessarily trouble. A male in must is like an irritated human being. Somebody who's just sort of on a short fuse, if you like. So with males in must, I'll always try and keep my distance, but they're not inherently or definitely going to be dangerous. Yes, I most certainly have had a little bit of trouble from them in that they're not nearly as tolerant of our presence quite often. And so I've had male elephants come up to the car and shake their heads and try and sort of tell us to go away. And as long as you do that, normally it's fine. That little one is shouting because she's trying desperately to suckle. And the mother won't let her. I think that's the mother talking to the youngster, saying, go and get something else to eat. Very angry. That's hilarious. I have a nephew who behaves exactly like that. That's probably a bit unfair. He's a bit old now. He certainly used to behave like that. I don't know, Sinak. I mean, I'm pretty sure they would be sensitive to storms and earthquakes. And the classic example is the tsunami, when all the Asian elephants went scampering inland as soon as that tsunami hit and they felt the water coming. Whether the African one's the same, I'm not really sure. They could be. I see no reason for them not to be. We don't really get earthquakes here, of course. It's a fairly settled tectonic area. Yeah, they're going straight off towards the Gallagher Pan now for a drink. Although there's a bit of argy-bargy going on in the thicket there. Ooh, goodness gracious, let's go and see what's happening. What are you all having a contretemps about? I think there's a young bull there. No, that's a cow. The ladies having a fight with each other. Now the mother who didn't want her baby to suckle is allowing a little bit of suckling. This herd is very irritated. In amongst themselves, not with us at all. I thought they were much more peaceful than this. Jenna in the final control room has asked a question of biological worth. When do elephants stop suckling? Well, in theory, sometime between 2.5 and 4 years old. But I think some stop earlier and some probably carry on longer. A bit of tree movement going on there. And the elephant is moving the furniture to get at the food underneath. Now they seem to have relaxed again with each other. Whatever dispute there was has finally calmed down. Peter G., the elephant's internal organs, yeah, pretty much arranged like ours are. I'm not hugely familiar with the internal anatomy. But yes, they have, I mean, all the same bits that we have, they have too. Their bowels are obviously a lot longer than ours because they are herbivores. But yeah, I mean, everything else is pretty much there. Heart's in a similar place, lungs are in a similar place. I mean, I hope that answers your question. I think that's what you were sort of asking. Let's carry on down the road a bit. Righty, Ralph Kirsten remains on the search. We will stay with the elephants for a little bit longer.
Well, it's been quite quiet today, and at least we've spotted some impala here. It's about the only animal we've seen, apart from the odd steenbok and duiker, very fleetingly running through the bushes. And these impala, at least, are something with a heartbeat, as they are just moving through, feeding a little bit in the brush here. We're heading now towards the northwestern corner, near to Sydney's dam, which is just off of our property. It's a good spot for us to actually sit here and just watch these impala a little bit and just listen out for any of the monkeys that would maybe give away a predator's position near to the waterhole. And this is the area where the cheetah family often comes in through, and the leopards also get spotted here quite regularly. Mr. Hukumuri and Miss Shudulu. And that one just feeding off the branches there. Superbikes. I think the Avoca male lions, I think they're off to our north, so up Biffles Hook way. I think that's the last position that we had them in, so they might still be up there. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I know that they came on, or they were heard, and when I last heard a couple of days ago, their position was just up to our north. But and that's the same direction that I'm heading now, but not holding my breath for the Avoca males, but you never know when they're going to appear. So could always be a surprise, same as the cheetahs and these leopards. So I'm just taking a chance coming through on this side. It's not really resident animals that I'm looking for. I'm just taking a lucky dip and seeing what we can find, and it would be lovely to have one of these cats that does make an appearance every now and then. Right now it would be nice if we could spend a little bit of time with them, especially before the sun sets. And then once the sun does set, then they normally get active, and then you move with them, you know. So that's always the best, but we'll take what we can get. All right, so seems a little bit quiet on our side, and well, you just got to make the best of it, and it seems like Steve is doing exactly that.
Thank you very much, Ralph. We have set up for some medicinal Tuesday afternoons, even though it is not Monday. Call it traditional tales on a Tuesday. No, we're not going to change the name. But we did a big loop around, and we tried to find a really nice leadwood tree, but the signal was bad, so we've had to come onto a termite mound where the sun is in our face with no leadwood tree. But I do have the branch here. I've got some water boiling because I'm going to make a decoction. I found some leaves, dried them. I've been drying them for a week, crushing them up very nicely there. Here is some bark that I harvested this morning off of the root. How marvelous is that? It's got a yellow wood. The root doesn't have the same protection on the bark that the above ground parts have, because the bark underneath the ground is not going to be burnt by fire. So it's got a lovely smell and a yellow wood. I find that really, really marvelous. It's the first time I've ever played with leadwood roots. And that bark there I'm going to use for a decoction. And then I found a leadwood stump that burnt the other day, and I've got all sorts of ash here which we're going to use for some goodies as well. And here are some very nice leadwood stumps which make a nice sort of tapping noise because the wood is marvelous. So let's get the decoction underway. I'm going to put about a cup of root bark. I'll just put all of it in. There we go. I've already got the water boiling. Now, if you remember, a decoction is about 8 to 10 minutes boiling. Let me just, my modified spoon, just stir it up there. And while we're waiting for that to boil, the next step That's a marvellous kettle, thank you very much. The next step is that we can also do an infusion out of that. So an infusion is basically just pouring some of it straight out immediately, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But with the leaves itself, what you can do with the leaves is you can actually take this and roll it up, maybe use a pipe, or if you wanted to use some tobacco paper, I suppose, and you could actually smoke this and inhale it to cure any colds or coughs that you might have. I know it sounds quite sort of against the way things work, that inhale something into your chest to heal your chest, but that is what it is. You could maybe even throw this on the coals and just sit there and sort of just inhale. It's quite a nice smell to it. The leaves are very edible, very, very well browsed upon by giraffe and elephant and kudu, and it's got a very nice sort of floral flavour. But when they are green, very green like this, they're mainly just edible. They're not, there's no real sort of, you're not going to burn that anyway. And then what I have done is I found lots of ash over here. And apparently with the ash, I'm not going to do it because I think my teeth are rather clean today, but apparently you can use this ash as a form of toothpaste. Now, I've made a little toothbrush over here, and you could essentially get a little bit of this with some water, I suppose, and then you could rub that on the teeth, and it will do some toothpaste, but we're not going to be doing that today because it doesn't taste very nice. But what we've also got is, with this ash, and I've got a whole bag of it, is we can make a little bit of whitewash, which is quite interesting, in fact. What you need for whitewash is about, this is a litre, so I'm going to need half, let me just check my calculations. I'm going to need about half a cup of salt. Yes, salt. Coarse, the fine kind. I should have prepared that before. Terribly sorry. Half a cup. Okay, very good. Into the litre. And then this lovely, all full of leadwood ash there. Now the leadwood ash is very high in calcium and very high in lime. Works very, very well as a whitewash. It's a natural sort of way of doing wood or doing outside walls such as barns. And I'm going to do 1 cup of that, and then I'm going to use water. In this case, I'm going to use some hot water, 500 mils of it, and that will alleviate. Now, you need to make sure that you've got some form of sort of protection in case things go horribly wrong. So I've got my glasses on. I've got my glove. There we go. And I've got my lovely stick. And I'm just going to mix it up there. You don't want to get any of it on your skin. It's completely natural. And I'm going to, it's basically going to be a bit thinner than paint. But it's going to need a little bit of mixing. So we're going to let our tea boil and let our whitewash wash. And while we do that, we're going to go over to Ralph, who is probably in a much more safer position than I am.
Well, look at this, everybody. We've managed to find a little nest and in a little scraping in the ground. Very well camouflaged eggs they are as well. And those are very indicative of a ground bird, which will nest on the ground. And you can hear one of the very concerned adults. This is from a crowned lapwing. And we actually found it because I stopped here just to put my jacket on. It's getting a bit cooler now. And this little crowned lapwing started to make a very big racket, as they do when you come near to their nest. And so I stopped and I thought, well, is your nest here nearby, buddy? And then Craig managed to spot it. So very good. There, it's just behind the vehicle. There it is. And obviously trying to shift us along, but we will move on shortly and we won't do you any harm. But this really reminds me of my youth because we used to have these birds often nesting on our rugby fields where I used to, from when I was 6 years old till I was 22, I played rugby all those years. And, there was not a single winter that did not go past that we didn't get dive bombed by these kivets, as we call them. The crowned lapwing used to be the crowned plover, but forever it will be for us the kivets that dive bomb you. And we used to have a lot of fun watching our mates that came too close to their nest getting dive bombed by them, and they do not stop until you move away. And they can also attempt to do a little bit of a broken wing type feigning, which then makes you think as a predator you could possibly catch it, and it leads you away from the nest, and when you're far enough away then fly off. But their biggest defense is obviously making a big racket and also then dive bombing you, and then you move off. So in full display now, and so I'm not going to irritate it for too long, but it's lovely to see both the adults in full beautiful plumage and the little eggs, which are so well camouflaged with all those speckles on it, and that's the best way for them to camouflage it. Well, Yvette, these birds have obviously evolved, along this particular route, and they are very successful birds, so it's not a bad way of doing things, and they'll sit on those eggs mostly at night, and during the day they leave the warmth of the sun to, warm them up and keep them incubated. But all the ground birds that do nest just in a little scraping like that, their eggs are very well camouflaged, and normally to suit the surroundings. So like here with these plovers or kivets or lapwings nesting like this, they're very often on the soil or just on gravel or in between the grass, so they've just got like little splodges on it like that breaks it up, and very, very difficult to find it. I tell you, if we leave here now and return and try and find this nest, sometimes you can't find it at all. So it's normally, and as I say, this time we wouldn't have found it if it wasn't for this adult that made such a racket, and with Craig sitting up nice and high there. So it's actually a very good tactic of theirs, and they do very well. So I would say that they're more they're better nesters than like turtle doves, for instance. Lou's saying they need to be careful because we've run out of eggs in camp, so I think maybe that's why this one knows that we're interested in taking her eggs and having some scrambled breakfast. No, your eggs are safe, love, no problem. But I think we should leave it now. I don't know if it's a male or female, but I suppose it's spent enough energy now trying to get rid of us. So let's just move on a little bit. Now, Ravinda, if one of those eggs had to break, I don't think that the birds will feed on it. No, they're not. I think that they would just shift it out of the nest itself and just try and move it off. But that's interesting. That's only 2 eggs, and I often see those same lapwings with even 4 to 5 chicks. So that's quite a small little clutch, that. I wonder if it's maybe new parents. Sometimes when their first or second clutch that they have is smaller, and it gets progressively larger. So maybe that's the first. Who knows? But nice to see that the little guys are making nests like that. That's brilliant. All right, so it was always funny with those birds attacking us and dive bombing us, and that was very nice. It took me back to my youth. Well, that's not the only thing that's funny out here. Off to Steve.
Yes, well, I'm trying not to be funny, but sometimes it just happens. I'm mixing my whitewash. It is going to be a wonderful product. But in the meantime, while I just let that settle a little bit, I still have my safety stuff on. If you're going to try this at home, make sure you're safe. It's important. So, for example, now I've made the tea. It's a decoction, which means it's boiled for like 8 to 10 minutes, and that is to extract all of the goodness out of there. So I'm now going to pour it the traditional way into my cup with my strainer. Can you see inside there? It's really, really dark. Really, really dark.
You can see nicely.
Nice. Lovely coloration. So by boiling it like that for a long time, you're going to extract all of those goodness out of there. And there we go. You see that beautiful coloration. I got my strainer just to keep the bits out. And I put a little bit of cold water in there before, because, you know, we like to taste these things. And if you have blood flukes in the blood, you know, you can actually cure yourself by drinking a tea like this. It's known for sort of internal parasites, also including schistosoma, so bilharzia, which is derived from snails that you find in sort of slow-moving water. And lo and behold, leadwoods actually grow quite close to stagnant water. It's just a little bit above, but quite close to it. So wherever nature has its problems in the environment, there is a plant nearby where you can help as well. But this infusion, or this decoction here, it's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. You can also have, if you have a problem with diarrhea, you can drink this. And some tales even go far to say if people are having trouble, ladies are having trouble conceiving, they can use this plant as a means of fertility. Seb is going to use it. Now, obviously, all of these traditional uses and beliefs that we talk about, people have spoken about, has been passed down culturally from generation to generation. Don't go out there and think that these plants are going to, it's very bitter, are going to cure you and solve you. If you've got any chronic medical issues that you need to be aware of and your doctors give you medication for, stay on that track. This is just to show you that in nature there are certain plants that can cure certain ailments. We're not curing all sorts of things, but the mild stuff, you know, not saving lives, should I say. But it's very, very bitter. Also, there was one more thing I forgot. I'm terribly sorry, I have to check my notes. But there's so many things with these trees. But what I wanted to say about the tree is that, let me just check that last one. Yeah, I did actually say it. Intestinal blood flutes. Okay, well, the tree itself is very, very hard, as I said before. Very, very hard wood. And they used to use it before the Iron Age. In the Stone Age, they used to use pieces of wood for hoes and for digging implements. It is a favorite wood throughout southern Africa for firewood. It makes very nice charcoal. It's got nothing to do with the fact that the ash is really lovely, but the wood actually in the trees are now protected. And it goes all the way back to many tribes found in the southern regions of southern Africa, namely the Herero tribe you find up in Namibia. And they believe that their ancestors actually live inside of these majestic, beautifully large trees. And the reason for that is that the trees can live for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. Imagine that. That's more than 10 generations. So one individual would be telling the same story to 10 generations, and then the tree would still be alive. And then when the tree dies, it can stand for over 100 years. So no doubt when you walk past, you must think there is something in the tree. The tree is watching us. So those people's belief is their ancestors are there. So for them to cut it down is completely taboo. They would never burn it. They'd never cut it. And every time they walk past, they'll say things like Makosi, which is respecting their ancestors and their elders who are watching. Always, always watching. Okay, so the decoction was marvelous. It tasted really good. I'm going to have one more taste because I don't think I got all of it there. No, I definitely.
Have some salt with it.
Dylan, there's a few things you can make coffee with. A number of the pods you can make out of the purple cluster leaf, the silver cluster leaf. You can make tea out of the russet bush willow, and even not the red. Don't do the red bush willow. Talking about that, the pods of this plant are supposedly poisonous. We don't know. It just says supposedly, because I think people who've tried it didn't ever write down that they're poisonous. They just didn't survive. Anyway, my whitewash has been well and truly mixed. I've even brought along my own paintbrush, and I did one little element over here, and you can see, because it takes a bit of time for it to dry, but there's one element that I wiped, and I'm going to do it some more, because whitewash actually takes a few moments. It goes from grey to white, so you let it just sit overnight, and it's a very natural way of protecting wood especially for barns and outside areas, so the locals would have used it for their kraals and for their houses. Isn't that marvelous? It can be insect protecting, and you can even add a little bit of color to your very dab homestead if need be. So I think that's awesome. And that came out of ash found from the ash of a dead tree. So very, very good. Thank you for joining me on this Medicinal Mondays. Hang on, we forgot to do one thing, the proper color check, didn't we? This is not for any application. This is purely to see the color. You know I do this every week. I do this every week just to get the color. That is the beautiful color from the decoction of the leadwood roots, the bark, and they take all the nutrients, all that goodness into the ground to prevent them from being damaged from fire. And the elephants were clever enough to push it over, to eat that. Who knows? Maybe they had some diarrhea. Maybe one of them were having difficulty in pregnancy. It's very hard to know. But what we do know is elephants, they figure it all out. And they pass down their traditional stuff just like we do. So it looks like James is on his way to the little chief. Let's go and see exactly what he's doing.
Yes, we are indeed on our way to the little chief, hopefully. Last time he was seen, he was just over here. Of course, most of you have probably been watching him. Oh, there he is. He's up! He's up! Hello, big fella. He just had a panic attack as a dove flew past him. Let's go this way. Oh, he's stalking something. What is he stalking, Fergus? We'll park on this island. Oh, there's a nyala. Miles away. Oh, and a duiker, actually. Sorry about that, everyone. A bit of a nasty place to stop for poor old Fergus. Oh, you very regal fellow. Look at you. What a very fine fellow. Gouges. He's watching a nyala and a duiker. He can't possibly be hungry again. But as we know, of course, leopards don't really have to be hungry to eat. They're more than happy to just eat regardless. This goes for most of the cats. And human beings. Is that what you were saying, Fergus?
No, he's a growing lad.
No, he's a growing lad. Yes, he is growing. He's a growing lad. Our favourite growing lad. What a lovely cat. Tiffany, very few times does a leopard manage to leave anything in a tree once they've finished feeding. Normally what happens is that they will finish the entire carcass, or they will drop bits of it and then finish it on the ground, or have it those bits stolen by hyenas. Interestingly, though, the last one that he had in the jackalberry tree not far from here, he or Tingana dropped a piece of it into a part of the tree that they couldn't get to, and that no hyena can get to, and so it's quietly sitting there rotting. Now, there's a lot of alarm calling going on north of us, and I wonder if Tingana isn't about to pitch up. Quite a lot of shouting going on through there. Very strange sound, actually. It's impala. It's impala alarming. Now, if Ralph's going to Gallagher Pan, what he might want to do is take the 2-track that goes off Mvubu Road up straight along the southern side of the drainage line. There are impala going ballistic there. I'm sure that's Tingana on his way back here. There, of course, is a nyala. But the impala are shouting a long way away from here. That's why old Hosana's looking forward like that. I'm just going to quickly tell... okay, Ralph's going there. This is very exciting, everybody. I haven't had a sighting of both of them together. I know many of you have with Tristan and with Steve, but I haven't. And I'm rather desperate to have a sighting of father and son. There's something about father and son meetings out here that I find deeply appealing. Yeah, you won't be able to hear them yet. I don't think the ambient sound will pick them up yet. Are you going to go and have a look, do you think? Surely not. What's he seen? He's seen something. Now the monkeys are alarming, but they're probably alarming at him. Off he stalks. Okay, let's follow. See what happens. We can't get straight off the front here. We'll get ourselves into some trouble. I think let's follow Ferg, just in case he gets into those thickets and we can't find him again. All right, Ralphie is following up on the other alarm calls. Let's go across to him.
Yes, everyone, we are following up on the alarm calls, and it seems like it might be Tingana. So I'm in the area between Gallagher Pan and the Vuyatila Dam. James is off in that direction, and there's also a little elephant there in between us as well. So they were talking about alarm calls, and I just want to stop and listen. I think James is saying that those monkeys alarm calling were for Hasana. He's mobile now on that side of that elephant, and I think those monkeys have got him up there. So I'm just listening out for now something a little bit further north. But so those monkeys now have picked up Hosanna, and I think we're going to now head off a little bit further to the north, so I'm not hearing anything for now. Alright, it's pretty quiet. I think let's head a little bit up Mvubu Road and head a little bit further north, and we're running out of daylight, so it will be nice to pick up this leopard, which most likely be Tingana sometime soon, before it gets dark. A little bit more difficult in the dark unless he turns his head and we get his eyes reflecting. Not as easy. Let's just get up here and go around the corner. Alright, so I'm on the search for another male leopard, but at least James is still with Hosanna.
We are, and he's just got himself into a little hiding place here. Either because there are monkeys alarming and he doesn't want them to see him, or because he's waiting for whatever's making the impala alarm to arrive, or the impala in front of him, he looked quite tasty. There we are. They're certainly a long way off him actually putting home some kind of attack. But they're all coming down towards his waterhole. They don't learn very quickly, obviously, because, I mean, this place has been a hotbed of leopards and hyenas for the last week, and yet here they are. If they had any sense at all, they'd be Buffelshoek Dam, or Treehouse Dam, where I haven't seen a predator for about 4 decades. He's come out, Ferg, he's running now. He's on the stalk, everybody, he's definitely on the stalk. Unfortunately, he's been spotted already. He got very careless there. He's still coming. He's still going. I'm going to move. Are you ready for it? He's so impatient. Oh no, why does there have to be a flipping log in the way? Here he comes. He's just there. Say when? Okay. They're not all alarming, which means they haven't all seen him. It's only one vigilant... Oh, no, there we go. No, it's only one of them. The rest of them are unconvinced. 2 or 3 now alarming. 4 or 5. He's not convinced that they've seen him. It was a really rather classically impatient young male leopard move, that. Now 5 or 6 of them are going. Those 2 are not alarming yet. There we go. It's a fairly pathetic alarm call. Now they take steps forward, of course, because they know that at this distance they are much faster than Hosanna. Those 2 males are going to be nailed long before they get anywhere near adulthood, if that's the kind of attention they pay when their mothers start alarming. That is absolutely ridiculous. Hosanna's still static in the same place. Louise, it may well be a bromance, but it's a ridiculous bromance because it's going to get them killed. Yes, Louise, you're absolutely correct. It is very much the same as many other bromances. He's gone in there. I mean, I don't know why he's wasting his time, because he's not going to catch an impala from that distance. Let's go around a bit. All right, let's go and say goodnight to Bushwalk while we try and figure out what happens here.
Yes, thank you, James. Well, as you can see, the moon is up and it's bright. And I don't know about the rest of the world, but South Africa is going to be experiencing a very long 3.5-hour lunar eclipse on Friday evening. We're all very excited about that. It's going to be a blood moon, which means that the sun is hidden by the earth, but the light refracted around the earth is going to show the moon out as being completely red. And it's going to be completely in eclipse for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Sadly, it's going to only start at 8:30 in the evening, which is the time that we go to bed. Especially when we got a busy, well, it's the time I go to bed. I go to bed at 9. I go towards bed at about 7:30, and I go to bed at 9. But I'll definitely be out having a look at that. And then we have a TV show starting the next morning. So very exciting indeed. As indeed James said, we are making our way back. Got to somehow navigate getting past James and Hosanna without obviously chasing any of those impala away. It's lovely stroll out in the African wilderness on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Good company, good weather. But it's been very hot today. I'm feeling, and Rexton's are feeling as well, that it's going to be overcast when we wake up in the morning. Let's see how we feel. Seb is disagreeing. He's like, where are the clouds? Where are the clouds? And we're like, we'll see them in the morning. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us on this game Bushwalk Safari this afternoon from the Bushwalk team. Have a fantastic evening. On that note, let's go over to Ralph.
Well, everyone, I'm just really trying to search for any sign of Tingana. So I've come down to where that old hyena den was. And just stopped there and had a good listen. And this is, you know, north of where James is. And I think that James is following up on those alarm calls there. So I'm just waiting to see if if Hosana and Tingana may be going to meet up. So I don't know if that's what's happening there, but we'll see what happens. I'll just go. We might bump into James, just so that you have a heads up. But we've got two leopards now in a very similar area. So obviously, if they land up being together, then I'll go off and look for something else. But I'll also try and just locate if it is Tingana in the meantime, while James is with Hosana. And obviously, if we spot anything else in between, we'll always stop for that. But that sun now, as Steve would have been telling you, definitely headed down past the horizon. So we're into the night hours. And what is going to happen tonight? It's nice and cool now. We've all got our jackets on. And I do believe that Tingana is just off in this drainage here, just near to us. He's moving through here, and I believe he's probably making his way towards Galago Pan, which is over there, or just a bit further on to where Hosana is at Vuyatela Dam. So okay, so let's just see. We've got to just drive slowly, keep our eyes open. There's a couple of Inyala. All right, and while I keep on now searching for Tingana, let's hope we can find him. As I head to the pan, I'm going to head you off to James with Hosana.
All right, here we've got him still. I think he's going to investigate what those other alarming impala were. His lot put him to flight. We're just going to go up here where it's a little bit easier. There's one leopard. Pretty sure it's still Hosana. It is, definitely. There he is. He's looking straight up to where I thought those impala were alarming from. There he is, just stretching his claws. Are you going to find your father? Excuse my bonce in the way. He's so marvellous, this cat. Isabella, you ask a very interesting question, and the answer is yes, absolutely. All animals feel stress from time to time, and that feeling of stress triggers a whole lot of hormonal responses in the body. For example, your adrenal gland will start producing epinephrine, as they call it in the US, or adrenaline, as they call it everywhere else in the world. And that then sets off a whole lot of other reactions in your body. It basically stops digestion happening, it stops you salivating, and it pushes a lot of blood eventually to the muscles that are going to be responsible for getting you out of the stressful situation. So all animals feel that. All animals have that response. Whether they register it in the same way that we do, I don't know. But interestingly, we as human beings, because of our lifestyles, live in a state of stress that is far in excess of what our bodies are designed to. And so, while we certainly have many of the same mechanisms that that cat has,
to deal with stress, and many of the same mechanisms that of responding to stress, we don't. Ours is continuous. So where the impala's stress, for example, was purely based on seeing this cat, the threat of this cat is now gone. Their sympathetic or their parasympathetic nervous system is now going to take over. The adrenaline will ebb from their bodies and they'll start carrying on feeding. So the stresses will go away. We as human beings, of course, live in continual stress. And we're not designed, no animal is designed to do that. We make ourselves continually stressed. So we don't have brief bursts of horrible stress followed by relatively long periods where our bodies can recover from the stress. We're just constantly in a state of stress. So our adrenal glands are overworked, as are many of our other hormone-producing organs. Glands is what I'm trying to get at there, and that makes us sick, and it makes us unhappy. And I don't think animals out here feel that. They definitely feel a great deal of stress from time to time, but there is no way that they experience it in the same way that we do. And if you think of a sort of Stone Age village, it would have been the same. Lots of stress, followed by long periods of relative lack of stress. I wonder if he's seen something now. Just doing the little twitch of the tail. Oh, and sleep. Wait for Dad there. That's where they said they'd meet. Meet you here. We'll go down to the pan for a drink together. What Tingana doesn't know, of course, is that his son has been at the bar all day long. And we're very disappointed. Shall we go a little bit forward, folk? Oh, must cover your mouth when you yawn, Sana. Now, when we discovered Tingana with his injury a little while back, it was on this termite mound. Well, it was close to it. In fact, it was exactly where Hosana's lying now. We'll just drive up and get a nice view here. Oh, hi, Bacon. Really don't know how long Tingana's going to tolerate Hosana hanging about. It might be pretty much forever, i.e. until Tingana decides that he needs to go into retirement, or it might not. I'm really not sure, but it could be that Hosana will simply move on of his own accord, wanting to avoid a confrontation and try and find a sort of empty territory for himself. All right, let's go to Ralphie now. We'll wait and see what happens here.
Well, everyone, when we arrived here at the little Galago Pan, as we're watching these drongos do a little dance over the water here, I think they're catching little insects as they fly up from the water. I think that's what they're doing. But there was a young elephant here, and when we arrived, he literally started throwing sticks on his head, and he trumpeted at us, and he's on his way now down towards where James is, and I won't be surprised if he doesn't give James a little show down there as well. And if he spots Hosana, well, he's going to charge at him and give him 1,000 words, because he was giving us 1,000 words until he decided to go off down into the bushes, and if we listen out, we might hear him trumpeting again. It just sounds like he's not very happy with life, or he's just throwing his toys out the cot a little bit. But well, We'll just sit here at Galago Pan. It's making for an awesome little experience at the moment with these drongos, and I'm just hoping maybe Tungana will show himself here. It's always a good spot to sit and wait here at one of the permanent water points at the moment, as these drongos really are doing a wonderful little show for us, flying up over the water. So just sit here and watch these guys. They are very good on the wing. And I'm sure it's for the little insects coming up off the water. Anyway, they are really flying up and around. That's wonderful. Nice reflection. There's not a breath of wind at the moment. Look at that, they fly. There's 3 of them. They keep flying up and then flying back. Watch that one with a beautiful reflection over the water. They don't seem to have a problem with each other. And I'm just trying to see if they are in fact catching insects. I think it's very small ones if it is. Either that or they're doing like a bit of a dance. They sometimes fly at each other as well. You can hear some of the arrow-marked babblers now, babbling away. Look at that. Yeah, there's also the starlings calling, the Birchall starling. Oh, I can hear a paradise flycatcher. Whip, whap, whip, whap. Must be one of the youngsters that have hung around. So it's nice, and just this last bit of light is when often the birds really hit their straps in the chorus as their last little hurrah before they go to sleep, settle down. And that paradise flycatcher is really calling now. Whip, whap. Whip, whap. And that's quite strange because they're normally migratory, and so it must be, you know, it can be one of the fledglings that has stayed now, and the adults have flown off, and then maybe he'll go on his first migration maybe in the next spring, in the next winter or next year. And that can often happen because they normally move off and then come back and return to nest again in the spring. And they normally nest over a little water source or river system, and that one's just down in a little drainage line just off of our camp and the lodge. And I'm sure you can hear it. Whap, whap. Babbler's still calling. Oh, you can hear the odd spur fowl. There's a starling. The drongos aren't calling. They're either dancing or they're feeding on insects. One of the two. I still haven't quite worked out. Now, Andy, birds will alarm call, yes, when they see snakes, sometimes when they see mongoose, when they see big predatory birds. So it's not only, you know, your predatory mammals or your cats and that kind of thing. It can be for anything sort of dangerous. And they can also alarm call for us as humans. That's why sometimes it's, especially when you're walking, you need to try and work out if they're alarming at you or if they're alarming at, you know, a predator. And sometimes, like the grey go-away birds, they can really put you off. And squirrels as well. They can be a little bit confusing. The most reliable being that of the kudu and the nyala, as well as monkeys. Monkeys are very good alarm call, because if you hear that a monkey's alarm calling, the only thing that they, you know, sometimes they do put you off with is perhaps a crowned eagle, because they are very good monkey hunters as well. So yeah, you've got to be careful there, but generally monkeys are fantastic. But you know, the one for me that is the best out of all of them is a kudu. kudu barking, that one, and it's such a booming bark as well that you can't miss it, and you can generally pinpoint the direction from where it came from as well. So it's that, and I mean, it really echoes through the bush, and you hear that coupled with bushbuck and nyala. They're really the ones. And well, let's have a look at this moon now. I know you checked it out a little bit earlier, but it is really looking nice now at the moment. And so as we just get a nice view on the moon there, very pretty. A few more days, I would say, before it is full moon. So you just let the focus come through there, and you can see all the craters and all of that. But it's now time that I'm going to send you on back to James with a moving Hosana.
We have the moon and we have Hosana. Hosana at the moment is leading us on a merry chase. He did a little bit of prancing. He jumped up and down. We thought he was maybe going to catch a scrub hare. He leapt across a little riverbed, and now he's sort of slinking leopard style through the bush. I'm assuming still looking for whatever it was that caused the original consternation of those impala. So far, he hasn't managed to find anything. He did look at one stage very concernedly, and I don't know what Ralph's plans are, but if I were him, I would circle back around to the dam and see if Tingana isn't about to pitch up there. I wonder if Tingana hasn't been sat on this termite mound the whole afternoon. Oh, Ashley, when the blood moon comes, we all have to lock our doors, put sheep's blood on the door frames, otherwise the leopards, which turn into were-leopards, will immediately come and take us out of our beds in the evening. That's obviously not true. Ashley, I think it just affects them in so much as any light affects them, so the more light there is, the more difficult it's going to be for predators to hunt. The less light there is, the better it's going to be for them to hunt. So, you know, when the moon gets full, they really don't like it. When there's an eclipse of the moon, well, it gives them a little bit of extra time to try and hunt. Seen something? No, that's right. Fergus is just saying that's not him that's being shouted at. He's going back towards those impala now. How much time have we got left, Lou? If Ralph has got time and he's close to the dam, he might still want to come up that 2-track. There's a 2-track just off Mvubu Road that comes up towards the alarming impala just south of the little drainage line. If he wants to come up that, you may well be lucky with Tinganananana. Yeah, those impala are still shouting. Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure you can hear now that there is a great deal of consternation in the little impala herd in front of us, but they can't be looking at him. They're definitely not looking at him. believe it's quite faint for you, but I assure you they are going mad. And Hosanna doesn't want to move just yet. I think we'll just stay with him. I'm not going to go and look what else there is. He's looking. Of course, he will be able to see pretty much as well as his infrared can see. All right, Ralphie can hear it. He's on his way. You can hear his vehicle coming. Osana very content there. You reckon he's got stocky, everybody? I think it's funny, you know. I think he's got quite tall. I feel like he's going to do a lot more filling out. I feel like he's got a big fat belly on him from all he's eaten in the last few days. But I don't think he was a stocky youngster, and I feel like he's not kind of lost that. But you know that lanky period that teenage boys go through, well, sometimes into the early 20s, in my case, quite a long way into my 20s, but you know what I mean, when they don't quite have the muscle that they're going to when they're older. And I think that's the stage he's in now. I would put him at a similar age to, say, a 16 or 17-year-old boy who's growing up. You can see he's going to get tall, but he hasn't filled out yet. No, I don't think he's filled out yet. I think he's got much taller in the last 2 months. Of course, my ability to recognize these cats is not known around the world as being particularly excellent. So it might be that I'm just imagining things. Still alarming, but they're slowing down their shouting now. I wonder if these two cats aren't sort of circling each other. What you got, Hosanna? What you can see? And don't ask me, boy, I don't know. I'm relying on your senses. Mine are poor. We've focused in on another area. Surely whatever this is going to, or, you know, whoever it is, I'm pretty sure it's Tingana. But I wonder if it isn't Tingana about to arrive at the dam. Keep an eye on the dam cam, everyone. Still calling. Not really, though. All right, let's go over to Ralphie and see if he's had any luck there.
Well, I haven't had any luck just yet, everyone, but I can hear these alarm calls. So I'm just slowly making my way up there, just trying to find my way through the thickets here. I found a nice little 2-track that will possibly take us up there, and I hope that these alarm calls are not going to stop. I'm going to stop in a second and just listen out and see if we can hear them again. Let me just come up here. I'll stop shortly because there was lots of alarm calling. So let's just stop here and listen. Let's just see. Seems to have gone a bit quiet now. Little Scots owlet calling. Ah. We went too far. Anyway, a little bit further up, I think. Let's go a bit closer. Get my spotlight out. It's up here somewhere. If we can find the All right, let's go to James. Hosanna is doing something special.
Here we go. There's the second one. It is Tingana. I'm just going to get hold of Ralph. Ralph, just keep coming there. If you turn your lights off, you'll probably be able to see our lights, or the one light that we have. That's not Tingana. That's his auntie, isn't it? Good grief. Here we go. Who is that? It's not Tingana, is it? Doesn't look like Tingana to me. What is auntie? No man, is that not Tundi? I can't see properly. Well, let's see what happens. He, she, it's coming towards. Staring at each other. This is awesome. This is unbelievable. She's marking territory. He, she, all is marking territory. It's growling. Hello everybody who's just joined us here in the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park, where we have 2 leopards in one sighting. There's a male leopard there and an unidentified one just behind that area. We're going to move slightly, and I'm just going to ask our director, there is the other one. Just going to ask our director to try and tell. They're moving together. We've got another vehicle out here. My name is James Henry, by the way, in case it matters. And you can ask any questions you'd like to. We're going to keep following these cats. There's another chap not far from here. These leopards are about to meet. And if he wants to come in, I think it'd be a great idea, Louise, if we can bring Ralph in. There's one I can see in front. So we're in infrared. That's why your picture's black and white. You see the other one? There. Straight in front of us. Straight in front of us. Down, left, left. That's a female. This is fascinating. If that's who I think it is, and it's very difficult to tell at this stage, I think it's his sister. Ralph, can you turn your lights down a bit? There's the other one to our left. So what we'll try and do is get the camera, one camera from each vehicle on a leopard each, so we don't lose them. What I think is the female's gone to ground there. Hosanna, the male, aged 2 and a bit, 2.5, is just off to the left. You see him there under the tree, Ferg. That's him there. Ralph, if you just keep coming there, keep coming. And on your left, you should pick up what I think is a female. No, that's the male. The female's on the left. Just keep coming forward a bit, maybe. She hasn't moved, has she? I'm just trying to get Ralph into the sighting as well, everybody, so we can have them both. Okay, so Ralph is going to be on both of them. Let's go lights down, Ralph.
Delia, you say this is beautiful. It is absolutely. Can you see the other one, Berg? Not in here. Maybe let's go across to Ralph if he can see them both. Okay, let's go across to Ralph. He's got one there.
Okay, everyone, so we've got both these cats here. I'm just trying to work out which one James is looking at, but I think that over there is Hosanna, and then the female is lying down off to his left. There she comes now. So I'm going to just indicate there. Okay, Louise says that this female has been identified as Tandi. So there we're into infrared now. So we've got Tandi and Hosanna. And so we've got a 2-vehicle sighting now as well. So one of us can watch one while the other one watches the other. And there's James in the background. So it's Tandi and Hosanna. That's wonderful. And there James is just pointing ahead. I can't see where Hosanna has gone. There we go. Oh, this is wonderful. Well, Paulette, you say that you love these feet so much. Well, I love it too. This is absolutely amazing, having both of these in the same sighting at once. Wonderful. Always lovely to see the interaction with leopards, because it's quite rare occurrences. It's not happening all day, every day. Sort of lots of marking going on now. Hosanna just reminding who he is. Deadly quiet now. Prana, you say, wow, amazing. Absolutely. This is fascinating, and in fact it's really awesome to be in the presence of 2 leopards, male and female, at the same time. Hosanna, having eaten yesterday and really rested up nicely today, probably drank lots of water as well. He's in fine form, and he could be quite active tonight, maybe moving around a little bit in the territory. He's come now a little bit off to the east, where Tandi and Tlalamba like to move around. And I'm sure the Tingana's also in the area as well. But for now, we've just got these 2 guys in our view. Now, Joshua, you say that Tandi's not the most tolerant of cats, so yes, I agree. Hosanna does need to be a little bit careful. But he is a male cat, and he's getting quite big himself. So yes, I'm sure he can look after himself and handle himself if he needed to. And she's now moving towards Hosanna, and there's James now moving up behind them. Obviously, don't want to lose sight of them, because once you do, then they're gone. Now, Angel, you want to know if they are related? Yes, they are. Hosanna was fathered by Tandi and Tingana, so it's not they're part of the same family. And Hosanna, that's probably why he's been tolerated. He's an individual male leopard that's moved back in here, and well, that's why these leopards are now sort of letting him, or tolerating him. But it's fascinating, and it's wonderful that he has come back and tested that. Tingana obviously fed off one of Hosanna's meals. I think he might have had a bit of both of his meals, the Steenbok and some of the impala. Now he's running. James is following up behind him there. That might have been Tandi, I think. So he's a little bit closer in behind him, and as I say, do need to keep up nice and close behind him, because once you lose the sight of them, they can be gone. So I'm going to head you forward up there to James. I think you might get a better picture.
Yeah, we've lost both of them at the moment. As Ralph says, it is important to keep sight of both. So we're going to search with the spotlight, but as soon as we find, we'll turn them off and carry on in infrared. That's the idea. Anyway, what they do seem to have done, pulled a fast one on us here. Doesn't worry me too much to use this artificial light because they're not hunting. They very clearly are just sort of sizing each other up. Smith, I think the chances of this being mating are very, very small, but it's not impossible. I mean, he's sort of old enough. There are the impalas over that way. She started running. I think more likely, however, is that she will be worried about what he would do to her daughter, to Tlalamba. So, you got them. Behind this tree, Fergus. Which? Oh, there we are. One of them. Okay. Oh, naturally, coming back the way. They're still growling. Oh, that's the female. Is it? No, that's not Hosanna. The female's coming from behind. I think she's coming from there. Yeah, there she is. Ralph, they're both here. Righty. Now, in this mix, everybody, is the father of Hosanna, whose name is Tingana. Almost 13 years old he is, and he's somewhere around here. This is where we left him this morning. So we may have a third at some stage. There they are. There's one in front of us. Just going to quickly talk to Ralph. Ralph, I'm going to shine a light on the marula that they're underneath. Okay, so we've got the female there, there's the male. So let's follow the female here. She's just lying down there now. You got a Ferg? Yeah. Oh, jeepers. I'm going to have to move, sorry, I'm about to puncture this tyre. I'll just go back very slightly. There we go. Fascinating stuff, everybody. Now, these things can go on for quite some time. They can continue. Both leopards trying to avoid physical contact. They don't want to fight with each other. He's just over there, yeah. There he is. What it really is fascinating. And this cat, Hosanna, 2.5 years old, he's unusually social, it would seem to us. He seems to seek out company, certainly from his father. He's totally relaxed. There's no kind of aggression in him at all. But his sister, Tandi, is known to be a fairly irascible kitty. She's not a cat known for her great friendliness to anyone, except her daughter. She's just growling every so often. She licks a bit and then she goes... Well, David, you're obviously a regular viewer saying that you hope that Tandi doesn't make Hosanna disappear. I don't think she will. Her concern will be for Chalamba, her new youngster, 9 months old, and whether or not Hosanna will be some sort of threat to the little one. He may or may not be. I don't know the answer to that. Mina, yes, it's exactly what's happening now. Tani is following Hosanna, but initially he came to look for her, or he came to look for whatever was making the impala alarm call in this area, and he found her. But now she seems to be following him. Okay, everyone, we're going to sit here for a little bit longer, see exactly what transpires. Thank you for joining us on this little sort of unscheduled action broadcast. We do this, of course, every single day, twice a day. You can just go to YouTube and type in SafariLive, and there you shall find us. Until next time, bye-bye. Well, like I said to everybody who just joined us, we're going to sit here for a little bit longer and see what happens with these cats. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Oh, some growling now. I think it's from her. He's just chilled to the max, isn't he? He just wants to be friends. Doesn't understand this solitary thing that these rest of the leopard population likes to do. He wants to be friends and live in a family. Tandy doesn't want any friends. Tandy doesn't like friends. Tandy is unfriendly. Impala are still alarm calling. I don't know why they would be. They're looking up because there's a vehicle full of people somewhere on a road not far from here, and clearly they had a very good drink stop because they're making quite a lot of noise. Now the impala are still alarming. Can't be at them. Might be Tinganana. Yep, they're still going crazy. Okay, everybody, that's going to be the end of this instalment of the Great SafariLive. What an action-packed and bumper episode it has been. 2 more leopards. Very exciting. We will, of course, see you tomorrow at 06:30 until 08:30. Stay safe and happy wherever you happen to be, and thank you for your questions and comments. We will see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.